Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the second installment of the Club Rats show. My name is John, my two co hosts.
Got Fernando here.
I'm Jesiah.
So, to start the show off today, we'll do a little recap on the college football playoff. Um, Obviously, in the national championship, we have Ohio State and Notre Dame. The game is MLK Day, January 20th. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. Ohio State is a 8-point favorite. I think they opened at 9.5, so it's been bet down a little bit. The ESPN FPI ranking has it. I believe it's like 45-55 in Ohio State's favor. So Ohio State's the favorite. So a little strange to see them as such a big point spread favorite. What do you think of the game?
I'm fired up for this game. I mean, going into it, it's going to be insane. Ohio State is a high-powered offense. They have an insane defense. I think Notre Dame's defense is better than Texas's defense, personally. I think they have one of the best defenses in the country, along with Ohio State and Georgia. I think those are the top three defenses. But if you look at everything, Ohio State is favored for a reason. 55%. They have an 8-point advantage. They're coming off a huge win against Texas. They got probably the best receiving core in all of college football. Their defense is on absolute fire. I think they're playing the best defense. So all signs point to Ohio State, but give me Notre Dame. I'm taking the Irish. Sometimes you just got to look at destiny, man. Everyone's been counting Notre Dame out all year, especially after that Northern Illinois loss.
Do you like Notre Dame money line, or do you like the points?
I love Notre Dame money line. Like I said, you got to believe in destiny sometimes, man. Tim Tebow said that best.
You are wearing the jacket.
I got to represent the Irish.
The new jacket.
I got to represent the Irish, dude. I mean, people counted them out all year, said they had a cake schedule. What'd they do? They played against a Big Ten team. Indiana rolled them. Then people like, oh, don't worry, they're going to face the SEC champions, which people said should have had 2 or 3 more teams in the playoff. And what they do against the winner of the SEC? Granted, Carson Beck is out. Do we all think Carson Beck is all that great? I don't.
No, I don't.
And what they do, they completely annihilated kind of Georgia the whole game. Yeah. They had complete control. Then they're like, oh, okay. Then they go up against another Big Ten.
They had complete control, but Stockton might not even be a college football.
He's their starting quarterback next year, as of now.
Well, because Beck left. I mean, come on.
But what I will say, Notre Dame didn't annihilate Georgia, but whenever you play an SEC team, especially Georgia, or Alabama, or Texas, can they hold up physically? And without question, Notre Dame,
they did.
They looked like they belonged to that game for sure.
100%.
So you always have to give them credit, when you're playing a team like
credit
Georgia.
Is due. And they beat Georgia by more points than they beat Indiana, actually.
Yeah.
Then they went up against the Big Ten runner-up. I mean, Penn State. They've been playing well all season. Their offense has been clicking, and just when all hope seemed lost, Notre Dame had an answer just yet again, 7-0 against ranked teams. I think people are just so quick to hop on the Ohio State train. Granted, I did like Ohio State preseason, but like I said, just looking at destiny, way things have been playing out, I love what Marcus Freeman's doing. I think he's a better coach than Ryan Day. I think he's going to get these guys war ready.
He actually has earned my respect from winning the Penn State game the way he did, because that was a grinded out type of game. We did say it was a pick'em game last week. But for me, I do have Ohio State this game. I don't know if I'll take the 8 points. That is pretty steep. But you could tease it with the points. I would probably do that as a 2-team teaser. So what about you, John?
I mean, so just to kind of recap what we did last week, the Penn State Notre Dame game. Again, a common opponent. Ohio State played Penn State early in the year at Happy Valley at Penn State. That came down to, I think it was a 7 or less type score game. Penn State had the ball in the red zone. It felt like the whole entire game. They couldn't score. Typical James Franklin, not being able to kind of dominate the game, but not be able to finish. He had 2 running backs run for 200 yards against Notre Dame.
And you think if you're in the red zone, just hand the fucking ball off, right?
Well, I've watched James Franklin for many years, and he has this issue seems to happen with him a bunch.
Reoccurring.
In big games, they just find ways to come up short, and they don't get the job done. Notre Dame was able to beat Penn State. Very similar to Ohio State beat them. You watch both games; it's almost identical.
Kind of at their own game too, because Penn State likes to run the ball.
Yeah,
and they pound it. And essentially, what you said last week too, John, you said if they could beat down Georgia the way they did, you could believe that they'll be down Penn State in a similar fashion. And you were spot on.
It's Georgia's. Georgia had the quarterback issues, but they're still a tremendously physical team
and well coached.
And if you could go heads up with them, you should be able to compete against Ohio State. So also to go even back to last year, this game already occurred. Ohio State went into Notre Dame in South Bend. They won the game on the last play. Freeman didn't have enough guys on the field, so McCord was able to sneak the ball in, and they stole the game. But if you watch that game, you by no means did you not feel like Ohio State was going to dominate the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they barely won. I wouldn't be shocked. It's a lot of the same players. It wouldn't shock me at all if it was a similar type ball game for the national championship. Kind of getting back, just to recap Ohio State and Texas. It felt like, the score was a little misleading. It was a 2-touchdown score, 28-14.
Final, yeah.
But if you watch the game, Ohio State, I mean, the
draw possession away, it was right there.
The screen pass before the half,
that was unbelievable.
You give Ohio State credit. Henderson ran it in. They scored it. I don't think he was touched on the play. No. I would want to talk to the defensive coordinator for Texas. What did he call, the discipline of the defense? When you call a screen pass like that, you're not expecting it to go 80 yards with 20 seconds left on the clock.
And especially right after Texas scored. Yeah, they have momentum. They're ready to go in a half. And you give up a play to totally flip the game. And Ohio State came out the second half with the ball.
Yeah.
So it was a total flip of the game.
That game should have been 7-7. You play the second half. It's tie game.
Yeah.
Speaking of recap, can we talk about yours? He is not an NFL-ready quarterback.
That was the first half. Yeah.
I know he,
just declared for the
draft. He's projected to go about third, fourth round. I've been reading, but he was making plays in that game that an NFL quarterback just simply cannot make. I think we all agree on that.
To be fair to yours, he was under a lot of pressure in the game.
Yes, he's still a kid too.
Yeah,
I didn't think the Texas offensive line. I thought they would hold up better against Ohio State.
How many sacks? Are you familiar?
I don't know, but it just felt like they got to him enough. And then Ewers is not the type of guy who starts looking to run and kind of take his, put his head down and not look at his receivers down the field. He gets a little happy feet.
He panics a bit.
He doesn't have a big arm. He's shorter. You could see.
You can't see over the O-line.
I mean, how many times did he get balls batted down?
A lot of times.
It was not. He just.
Ewers plays.
I don't think he's the guy. Watching the game, it made me feel like, I will say this, if I was Sark, you'll have that feeling if you're a Texas fan. What if they would have just even played Arch Manning more? Not start him, but just even put him out on the field more.
They put him on the field one time for the fourth down. And
he almost did fumble the ball.
Yeah.
I'm not an Ohio State fan. When I saw it, I'm like, he fumbled that ball, but they couldn't overturn him.
Yeah.
One thing I'd want to say about Ewers as well is I think he is successful because of the talent around him. I think if you flip him and McCord or him and a couple, that you could say that about a lot of college quarterbacks, but I think this is a great opportunity for him to enter the draft, because I think if he were to come back and go to a different school, maybe like how McCord still played well at Syracuse.
I believe he's entered the draft, though.
Yeah, he is. I'm just saying, I think it benefits him now, because if he were to go to a different school and not put up the same numbers, he would actually be hurting himself. He steps into sacks. He can't see over the offensive line. He's surrounded by studs, so that alone helps him look a lot better.
Also, if I was the kid's agent, from what I saw, he's anywhere from a third. He's not a top 60 pick. So if I was him, I'd probably come back, and with NIL,
that's what Carson Beck did.
Somebody could
he originally declared for the draft, and then he backed out of it.
Carson Beck's going to make more than Brock Purdy. So his stock, he'd probably be smart to come back. But if he wants to go, he wants to go. He has been in college football for a while. He's either had
4 years,
2 or 3 years at Texas.
Yeah, and then one at Ohio.
And he spent 1 year on the bench at Ohio State. So I can see if he wants to move on.
Ewers did play pretty damn well prior to the injury. I said this last week. After the injury, he looked a step slow.
Yeah, he looked horrible.
After the injury, and we saw last week, he plays like he looks like he plays with jeans on.
I
He
also-
can't move.
I feel like teams also got in more of a groove as a season went along. Now, I do want to ask you guys this: if you guys were Sark in that situation, and you see, yours isn't really panning out, and I do want to say the score isn't like they were one play away from tying the game up.
They had the ball first and goal at the
At
2,
yeah,
7
4th and
point
5
game.
on the.
I
Now,
probably would have tried Manning.
Would you guys have done something like Nick Saban, for example? He took out Jalen Hurts in the national championship, threw out a true freshman, and won the game.
Put into a.
Yeah,
It crossed my mind. That was a moment to, he was always kind of on the bench waiting.
Waiting for his moment.
Yeah, and he came in and he literally won that national championship. It would, but Nick Saban, did he pay guys? Did he not? I think he did.
Of course.
Of course.
he did.
But to compare him to Sark, Nick Saban's a better coach.
Oh, it's
Really,
not
people
even
say he
debatable.
was just
Sorry.
ahead of his time for playing the players.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
just ahead of his time.
Now, I feel like Texas fans, I've been seeing it, and you could kind of, at least I could kind of feel it. Fans kind of wanted Manning to be out there at some point.
But and that's the thing with fans. Fans are kind of dopey. It's easy. Every fan wants the backup quarterback to play.
Right.
Stockton looked great.
People
and,
wanted Stockton out.
but
out
and
there.
over time, Stockton looked good early on. But when the defense got to see him
Prepare
more,
for him.
they got more of a look. You saw what he was. To me, he
Exactly.
looked like he kind of looked like the Michigan quarterback, Davis Warren. He looked like a walk-on. No offense to Davis Warren, but when he was out there, the defense got the game plan for him. I
totally
wasn't
different.
as impressed with Stockton. He looked, not
Yeah.
that good. So it's easy to root for the backup. Texas went with Ewers the whole year. You don't pull your quarterback in the biggest game.
But for a player
But-
two, they did it on 4th down.
I
in the
would
first
say-
half. Yeah, he almost fumbled like you said, but
To
he
put a
got
wrinkle in
10
there,
yards.
and they did this throughout the year. In the early part of the year, they would put Arch out there. He would take off. He'd make a play. I think I would have incorporated him a little bit more in that game, and it might have been the difference in the game.
It could have been a momentum swing.
Yeah.
You don't expect it. He's a backup quarterback. They're not game planning for him.
Exactly. So
like when they're on the 2-yard line, like what we were originally saying, could we have put Manning in for that 2-yard run, or to make it,
But just
make
even-
them think it's going to be a QB
just
run?
even throughout the game,
Just spots.
as a guy watching a horrible offense all year with Alex Orji and Davis Warren at quarterback, they weren't great quarterbacks at Michigan, but there were times in games where Davis Warren was the thrower. Then all of a sudden you have Alex Orji out there. He's 6'3",
He's extending
240,
plays.
235.
For 3 weeks there.
He
was
ran
looking
for
good.
over 30 yards against Ohio State in the game.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited to see him be the next UNLV quarterback.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Because
I don't-
that's what UNLV
I think
does.
he'll
They
fit
like
the
to run the
system.
ball.
I don't think he can throw.
No.
Mullen does have, this history. He worked with Dak Prescott. He's worked with these type of quarterbacks that maybe aren't the best throwers, and he develops them. So maybe that offense will help him. We'll see. But I do think Sark, he's supposed to be this creative mastermind offensively. He could have inserted Arch Manning, and it might have won the
He
game. Might have
folds.
been the difference of the game. But Sark, he did this last year. They
Against
probably should have beat Washington.
Yeah, he did the same
they
exact thing. I was
came
just
up
about
short
to say
again.
that.
So he's kind of like a version of James Franklin, in the biggest moments they come up short. So ultimately, we kind of recap the games. Who do you guys think are? I mean, what are your picks? What are your official picks for the national championship this upcoming Monday?
My official pick is Notre Dame +8. If you want to sprinkle a little bit on Notre Dame money line, I think it's their year. They're going to do it. I think just like they did this past week, I think their defense is just going to make one more play to win them the game, and that they didn't make the year before.
So you got Notre Dame
So I
money
think-
line, not even with the points. You're just going.
I'm going Notre Dame +8 for my lock, but I think Notre Dame will win the game. I'm going Notre Dame money line myself.
They played Ohio State. How you want to play them? How Michigan beat them in Columbus?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you want to play Ohio State. You want it to be a low-scoring defensive game. Ryan Day is not comfortable in those settings.
No.
Now, Ewers turn the ball over, but I don't think Notre Dame will fold like that. Notre Dame plays complementary football.
They do.
They like to run the
They're
ball.
disciplined.
They complements their defense. So I think they're not going to. Notre Dame's not going to be nervous being in a 7-point game,
No, not
down
at all.
or up, which way ever it is. They'll be comfortable in that situation. So the pressure is all on Ohio State.
Yeah.
Also,
Jeremiah Smith.
Jeremiah
Smith.
There we
and
go.
let's be real, if there
Texas
was,
held him to 1 reception, 3 yards. Like that's
They left
win.
a blueprint.
if
right
he didn't
there
have
for
to
the
wait,
game.
Jeremiah Smith, he might be a top 5 pick in this draft.
He kind of reminds me of
Arguably.
Maserati Marv as when he was a
The thing I like
freshman.
about
There's
him,
people
though,
talk about he can go on NBA. He can go on NFL teams now and make a difference.
Him and Ryan Williams.
You
I
tell
think
me
are
he
the
can't be a
top
slot receiver right
receivers.
now?
the thing about Smith, though, physically, like, I think Harrison's a little bit more finesse.
Yeah.
He's a route runner and stuff like. His dad is one of the greatest
Yeah.
route runners of all time.
Of course.
Smith is just a physical. He's kind of like a TO. I mean,
Yeah.
But I will say this: I'm not a big. If I was drafted, I would never take a receiver top 5. They don't change games as much as I mean. I shouldn't say they don't change games. They can disappear in big games.
I see your dad so much
They
right
can
now.
change.
The way you're
They
sitting
can
with the
change a
hand.
game. They can change a game, but blowing smoke. He's the greatest receiver ever seen. The dude,
No.
He had one catch. We had 3 yards in the game.
3 yards.
Yeah, something.
So
like
if you
that.
game plan for him, which Michigan's done for years,
And you said that as well. Michigan did like a kind of a box on
And-
him.
Notre Dame is they're like that. So
Yeah,
Marcus Freeman, he's a defensive guy. He's a Buckeye himself.
he is.
He played for Jim Tressel. He's going to come at it with a defensive mindset. Jim Tressel was the former coach at Ohio State.
Okay.
I call him the real coach of Ohio State. Now you kind of have whatever Ryan Day is of Ohio State. This
Yeah,
flash in the pan. We're going to score.
he's doing better than I thought, though.
No, right. I mean, Ryan Day's not. I'm just saying.
This is the year to win a natty. It's been wide open.
Yeah.
You could run this back 10 times and we'll get probably a different championship every time.
One thing I would say about this, in college football, does a great job of this. We have a national championship where the 2 teams playing in the national championship, Notre Dame's not in the conference, so they didn't even win a conference. Ohio State finished 4th in the Big Ten, yet one of them is going to win the national championship. So as a complaint as a college football fan, usually the team that wins the national championship, like Michigan went 15-0 last year. They won the Big Ten. They beat Alabama.
The real undisputed.
Joe Burrow's LSU
Yeah,
team,
that was insane.
they were undefeated.
Their
Alabama's
guy.
2020 team won it. Typically when you do look at the national champion, you want an undefeated, at least a conference champion. It is kind of strange. They have to reseed. Like, what are the seeds? 7 and 8?
7 and 8. And I don't. I
That's
do,
not-
I
I
do
thought
think
Ohio
moving
State was
forward.
5.
No,
eight.
they're 8.
They're
I do
eight.
think
In the
moving
college
forward,
football playoff, they're
moving
eight.
forward
Wow.
next year, I think after the season they'll adjust that.
They have to
accordingly.
fix that.
Now, one
that's
thing-
not
It
right.
is
One-
weird that they pick the matchups. It's not based off
They
seeding.
give.
They,
no, it
they,
is
they,
based
kind-
off
no, but they
seedings.
kind of
They
pick
give
the
the auto
matchups.
bids though. Like Boise State was the 3 seed.
Yeah.
And then
because they were
Arizona
not West.
State was a 4, which is.
And I love
BS.
Boise State, but they shouldn't have been the 3
They were
seed.
just happy to be there. I said last
I
week.
don't even
they
think
were just
that's
happy
SMU
to be
should
there.
have. Well, that's a totally different topic. But one thing that does benefit Notre Dame moving forward,
I
and
can't
not to
look-
get off topic, is both Ohio State and I believe Notre Dame, since they made the national title, both get $20 million to their conference.
Yeah.
So the Big Ten gets $20 million. Notre Dame's not in a conference.
They
They
get
get
that
all
outright,
that $20 million, and they get to
Wow.
reinvest that into NIL
Into
deals
their
or
program.
whatever. So that's huge for them moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not. Notre Dame's not in but Notre Dame's not in a conference. College football's got its quirks and stuff, but it is weird to say the national champ. There's you didn't win if you check your boxes off. If you're an Ohio State Buckeye, beat Michigan, no. Win the Big Ten, no. But you're going to be the national champion. It is kind
That
of
doesn't make
It is
sense.
kind of weird.
I'm telling you, you got to believe in
and I'm not-
destiny. Everything lines to the.
I'm not hating
the
on Ohio
game.
State. They are there. They're just playing through the
So
system.
what's your pick?
I'm going to take Notre Dame. I'm not as confident as Fernando. If they win the game, I might become a Catholic. So if you know me, that's a big deal. I am rooting for Notre Dame,
That's amazing.
but I'm going to take Notre Dame definitely with the points.
Okay.
I think it's
Let me write
going
that
to be a
down.
close game. Obviously,
I think so too.
the style, the longer Notre Dame can kind of keep that a 1-score game, you like their chances.
Now, what does have me worried is Notre Dame's ability to throw the ball. But I did have that question mark last game, and they came back throwing the ball.
Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame quarterback, I kind of was making fun of him in the previous podcast, or not saying he wasn't very good. I was comparing him to Davis Warren. I will say this for him, and it's why they probably won the Penn State game. He was, with the game on the line, whatever he had to do, he made a throw, he made a run. He was able to get his team into field goal position, whereas the Penn State quarterback,
he threw the game
he
away.
threw a pick,
I
cost him the game. So I will say,
It was a pick'em game.
if Notre
Go either
Dame
way.
can keep it close, I actually would trust Riley Leonard in that situation over Howard. Getting back to the Texas-Ohio State game, as much as we were being critical of Quinn Ewers, as soon as Texas started hitting Howard,
Same thing.
He looked very average.
Yeah.
His feet, he started getting happy feet. He started getting average.
Yeah.
He started getting happy feet. He started to kind of run before the,
We saw
not
that
step in the
against
pocket.
Oregon. What
Yeah.
he did at the end.
He had a sack in that game. The ball bounced back into his hands.
Yeah.
If that ball's fumbled out and Texas picked, they probably win the game. I mean, that literally came down to a play or two. I'm not saying anything.
It really was a touchdown
That's football,
game.
though.
The fumble recovery.
That's football.
That
One of the
insane.
biggest plays in Ohio State history. Honestly, it's huge. But
if you hit Howard and rattle him, he will. He doesn't look as good clean as most quarterbacks.
And Leonard can take hits, dude. We've seen it. He's a unit.
Yeah.
He'll lower his shoulder. He'll try to hurdle people. I think this game, if they can get it super smash mouth physical game, Notre Dame will win this game.
Obviously, if it's a high scoring game and it's up and down,
it's going to go to Ohio State.
You would favor Ohio State. For sure.
I'm expecting a nice, hard, old fashioned smash mouth football game. I love the corners for Notre Dame. I love their safeties. I like Xavier Watts or linebackers. I think it's going to be in the trenches type of game.
And this is a weird college football season with, I watched the panel before the Michigan-Alabama game. They would have made you seem like you got Pat McAfee, Nick Saban, Kurt Herbstreit, and they picked some fan, I guess. They would have made it seem like Alabama was going to eviscerate Michigan.
Yeah.
They don't – these guys don't know. These media people, they pick a side, but they don't know what's going to happen.
They're only picking a side because it's their job. They're not really watching the game as fans.
Yeah, but if you watch the Michigan-Alabama game, instantly that first quarter, there's no reason Alabama should have been a 13-point favorite or whatever the hell they did. I think got up to 15.
I think it was 15 and a half.
Why is it?
You took the other side. I remember calling you. Yeah. I asked you if you bet that game, and you say you did.
Well, Michigan looked like a totally different team from the beginning to the second.
Correct. But this is such a strange year. Everybody's just jumping on Ohio State. Who knows? Maybe it's Notre Dame's year. The last time they won a national championship was 1988. Lou Holtz. He's doing videos making fun of Ryan Day. If he won, I mean, it would be unbelievable for Notre Dame to rub that in Ohio State's face.
Agree.
So I think I got my pick. I'm going with Notre Dame in the points. You're going Notre Dame straight up. And what's your pick?
So I like Ohio State, and I like the points on the teaser. I would do that as a two-teamer because I don't know if I could take.
So you're going to lay the 8 and take over the Buckeyes.
No, I'm going to lay it on the teaser, so it'll be -1.
But you're taking Ohio State.
Yes.
No, not what you're betting, but what would be your pick if you're just?
I'll take Ohio State.
You take Ohio State.
If I'm just picking who to win, I think they're going to win.
I can't argue with it. They
are
are
the favorites. I hate just picking favorites. Offensively, y'all gave great explanations for why Dame should win or why they can win, and they can. The 8 points is steep. It's like what we're seeing in the NFL, which we'll get to in a second. But some of these point spreads are kind of crazy for playoff game, championship games.
Yeah. It is odd, yeah.
So speaking of that, let's jump to the NFL. Let's start with the recaps of the games first. So the first game last week was Chargers and Texans, and we'll all say we got the game wrong. Texans showed up to play. I'm not going to say Stroud won them that game, even though he did play well. I thought Mixon played great, and their defense. I believe their defense won them that game.
Out, yeah.
None of us could expect Herbert would throw more interceptions than he did the whole year.
I think Herbert needs help. I don't think he has any good receivers. McConkey, like I said, he's a stud. I mean, he's pretty much the only guy who was there.
Ladd is a building block for the future for sure, but like Johnson might not even be a receiver next year. Johnson might be out of the league next year.
He might be.
He can't catch the ball.
No.
Yeah, he does. He has a bad case of the
drops.
horrible.
It's insane.
Overall, knowing Harbaugh, I mean, we all picked him. He does do this sometimes. He'll come on. You get a boost when you get Harbaugh. I do think the Chargers, like I said, they don't have the talent to win the Super Bowl. I did pick them to win this game. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors.
They were on a hot streak.
Yeah. I will say this, though, to be critical of Harbaugh, because I'd even be critical of him at Michigan, he's supposed to be the quarterback guru, and in the biggest game of the season, your star quarterback comes out and throws 4 picks.
Yeah, he only threw 3 all season. It's amazing, really.
That's frustrating. Also in that game with the Chargers and the Texans, the first quarter, I mean, it felt like the Chargers were going to dominate.
Yeah, I thought so too. They got down the field, 2 quick field goals.
The defense
had Stroud turn the ball over twice in the first half.
They were getting to Stroud. The one play that changed that game was Stroud fumbled the snap, It's shotgun snap. He fumbled it. He picked
At
it
his
up.
own 5-yard line.
He threw it to like the 45, 50. And then you're just
It
like,
was a
wow. It
35-yard
kind of got
catch.
them going. It was
Yeah.
kind of, I don't want to say it was a fluky play, but it was definitely an odd, you don't
It kinda
plan to
changed the
drop
whole
the snap.
game.
And then from that point on, the Texans just took over.
Really, where I think the game changed, it was on the Chargers' second field goal. But prior to that, it was third and whatever. Herbert threw a dot to, I don't know, he looked like a tight end. He was a white guy around the 15-yard line and wide open. He just drops it. It literally looked like he had bricks his hands.
The Chargers are
And
lacking.
When he dropped that pass, because that was the easy first down, and then their first and goal right there, essentially. I felt like that's when the momentum changed. He still scored a field goal after that. But I believe the next possession after that was when the Texans had that crazy fumble snap and Stroud threw that 35-yard pass. It was around that time frame. And so both plays was such huge momentum swings.
Hopefully with Harbaugh, he's having hip surgery and he's having a heart procedure. Hopefully he can get through that okay. I hope nothing bad happens.
Yeah, he's stressed out over there.
Harbaugh
I mean, if you saw him pregame, every time he would run out, he was literally limping out of the tunnel.
Yeah,
So
it's not the
There's
same
one
Harbaugh.
game, the announcers were like, there's no injuries on the Chargers this game,
Yeah.
except Harbaugh. He went back to the tent.
He went
And
back to
it
the
was
tent.
wild. I don't know what happened, but it might have been his heart, I think.
Um,
So that happened, and now fast forward to the next game, the Ravens and Steelers. We all kind of expected the Ravens to win. I picked the Steelers as a upset, but the Ravens are
pretty
meant
much
to be
will.
there.
Yeah.
The one thing though, so they were missing Zay Flowers. We didn't cover that last week, and
it didn't
because of
matter.
that, it didn't matter.
They
But
just
something
rolled.
when the Steelers were making a little bit of a comeback, 2 possessions in a row, Jackson didn't really do much, and that was in the second half when the Steelers were on the comeback.
But
And that
that's-
kind, but they were killing the whole game. But
It's kind of playoff.
I'm saying that now because it's gonna highlight why I pick the game later on against Jackson.
Got it.
But yeah, there's not much to cover there. The Ravens rolled them.
They just rolled
their
them.
defense is
The-
good.
The one
Run
thing
game
with
is amazing.
with the Ravens, Jackson, because he's an unconventional quarterback.
He gets happy feet.
He's
'cause
amazing.
He
I
wants
mean,
to run.
You look at his numbers. His numbers were better
Regular season
last
MVP
year,
always.
and he won the MVP last year. So
Yeah.
you almost have to say, how can he not be the MVP this year? If he has issues, they do have Derrick Henry. And
Exactly. That's
Derrick
a huge
Henry
load.
is just,
Yeah.
to defend him and Jackson running the football. I don't know who's going to stop. that.
It's
It's
tough. That
that's a tough
RPO,
duo.
the RPO is a real thing, and they got another hardball over there, as we all know. So
Yeah.
so
Exactly,
they know what they're doing, right? Do we know if Zay Flowers is back?
Yeah, he should be back, I believe.
He is back against the
I don't
Bills.
know. I don't know.
I think
You
he's
guys
going to
know
be
better
back.
than
The Ravens are favorites, so I wouldn't be surprised if Flowers is.
There's no
is
way
healthy.
he misses that game.
But let's highlight the Ravens' defense. They were one of the worst defensive teams half the season. The second half of the season, they're literally number one defense.
Very much like Michigan, they run the same scheme.
yeah.
So if Wink Martindale, he's a Michigan defensive coordinator, he's interviewing to go back to the NFL, we'll probably just call John or Jim or McDonald for Seattle and just get the next defensive coordinator that will make Ohio State lose their
Miserable.
minds again next year.
There you go.
That's usually what happens. But you're absolutely right. The Ravens had the same kind of projection. They kind of struggled early on, and
It was
came
bad
back.
at the
looked-
beginning.
and that I know to be positive with the Ravens, they just looked that game when you watch them against the Steelers.
There was no doubt.
I
in your
bet
mind.
Pittsburgh. I took the points. I did pick the Ravens to win, but the Ravens were the better team.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they
the
just
much
looked a
better
class
team, yeah.
above. You just knew they weren't losing that football
Yeah.
game.
100%.
Yeah, they were going to win that game.
I
So
agree.
that was the second game. Third game was Broncos and Bills. And
The next day, Sunday
we
morning.
Really,
swept
yeah.
that. We all chose Bills. First possession of the game, Broncos scored. Good job, Bo Nix. Good job,
That's
Sean
pretty
Payton.
much all they did.
And
Yeah,
that's all they
that's
did the
pretty
entire
much-
game. The
Yeah.
Bills took care of business. It wasn't a game.
We kind of said going to
Yeah.
Buffalo's
It's
Tough.
not-
Rookie quarterback.
it's not a game.
like,
in
it's
Buffalo.
just-
That's
yeah.
brutal. I'm not going to kill Bo Nix for.
No.
He had a good year.
No,
He did.
honestly,
He had a great
he surprised me early on in the year when they played the Steelers, for example, and the Steelers demolished Bo Nix and the Broncos. I thought Bo was a bum, and
nice.
he stepped up. He got that Broncos
Who would you rather have, Bo Nix or Caleb Williams?
Bo.
Nix.
I don't even think it's debatable.
But I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan, but Bo Nix is being coached by Sean Payton.
Whereas, I think he has better players,
Caleb-
better defense. Yeah.
I
Caleb
don't
Williams
think-
is being coached by a guy who couldn't call a timeout. He let the clock run out against the Lions.
Bo Nix is for sure
one of the most amazing NFL plays I've ever seen.
I think the easiest way to look at it, switch places. If Bo Nix was on the Bears, I think
they would be better off.
I think they'd be better
with that coaching staff.
I think so too.
They have the better receiving core.
Well, the Bears have talent, but it's not an offensive friendly system.
No,
Bo gets rid of the ball. He is a quarterback.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams holds the ball like it's college.
Did you guys see
Caleb gets killed though?
Did you guys see Caleb Williams get pranked by?
By the kid about the.
By the Lions offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He went on to Amon-Ra St. Brown's podcast. He texted Amon-Ra to see if he could get the OC's real phone number to confirm that it was Ben Johnson. But Ben Johnson was at dinner, so he didn't text him right away. So he was just talking to some guy. It wasn't even Ben Johnson.
And he paints.
But you can tell though in the text messages, like Caleb was like, "I'll take Ben Johnson in like 2 seconds." And I don't like Caleb, but I would like to see him with Ben Johnson. He might do better.
I think Ben Johnson to come to the Raiders.
I think he's a powder.
That might happen. Him and Brady
seem
to like each other.
I really want Ben Johnson.
If you watch
as a quarterback, I don't think Caleb could lead your team. I think he pouts. I think he blames. He throws bitch fits on the bench.
That stuff, I think matters when it comes to winning a Super Bowl, like winning the whole thing. But if you put him in the right system, I think you could win 10. Like, why couldn't he have done what Bo Nix did? Bo Nix went 10-7.
Remember, people said the same thing about Baker. Is he going to be good in the NFL because of all the little antics he did? And I mean,
he still has a lot of antics.
Baker Mayfield was almost out of the NFL.
Yeah.
Sean McVay, who you hate, he picked him up on a 10-day contract, and I think he beat the Raiders in a week's notice.
On 98 drive.
Literally,
98-yard
just
drive.
picked him up, put him on the team. So that's what I'm trying to say. Football's a lot different than basketball, but basketball's coaching.
Where you coaching
is
matters.
big too.
I mean, look what happened.
And coaching matters in football. It 100% matters. Like you can scheme. It just all goes into
everything.
It.
But look, people were getting ready to get rid of Bryce Young too, and then they benched him.
He looks okay now.
He
looks like a pro quarterback.
Pretty much killed it. My biggest knock on him, I just think he's small.
Yeah,
I think he's small, but he was making some reads at the end of the season. I don't think Caleb's small. I just think he holds the ball way too fucking long. He holds it like it's college still. I don't think he's an intelligent.
He's not like
he'll learn though. I think he'll learn.
I don't think he'll learn. I don't think when I see him, I hear him talk, and I see him in the games. He doesn't look like an intelligent IQ type of guy. And as a quarterback, kind of like a point guard in the NBA, you want that to be the smart guy on the team. You want him the one
think he'll be better
making the plays.
Year.
Well, what's the receiver's name? Moore as a DJ Moore.
Yeah,
Moore.
He gave up on him, dude.
But
I don't blame him.
But there's a lot of. I mean, this is all hearsay. But there was a lot of vets in the Bears locker room that wanted to start the backup.
Yeah.
So that's not a good sign.
The only chemistry Caleb built with someone was the rookie.
Romo Dunze. Yeah, Romo
from Bishop Luna, by the way.
Yeah, he played in the national championship last year.
That was the only one, and probably because the age, they're the same age. That's probably why that was the only one that he built any chemistry with.
So, to just put it in summation,
I like Bo Nix better.
I agree, but Caleb, let's see what he does with. Let's see who they hire as a coach. He might have a better.
And like I said, he may have thought it was going to be easy this year.
Or
I think he's going to learn. He's going to have a better coach, better mentors. Maybe veterans will be more inclined to help him out. I don't know.
A better comparison is Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels on the Bears make the playoffs. I think it's that simple. I think Jaden Daniels is a legit quarterback.
But he's got the guy
Cliff Kingsbury.
He's got Kingsbury. Yeah,
he has a great coach.
Yeah,
he has a great coach.
But a legend.
But if you look at team versus team, just the roster.
I do like Daniels' mentality.
The Commanders don't really have a great team. We can all say that, right? They don't really have many weapons. I love McLaurin, and their running back core isn't bad.
Is it McLaurin or
Terry?
McLaurin, yeah.
He's great.
He's great.
He's got great rapport with Daniels.
Well, he came into a good offense already. But I think weapons.
So with Daniels, bring it up. I think he's a winner. Like he's happy to be there. You always see him smiling, like he's talking. He's a communicator. He's a leader. Why couldn't Caleb Williams do that with his team?
Right now it just said Zay Flowers misses practice again Thursday with knee injury.
Oh, we just got an update. We're breaking news. Breaking news live. Zay Flowers still missed practice. We don't know if he'll be playing.
All right, the next game, this was after the Bills-Broncos game. It was the Eagles-Packers.
Not much to talk about there. I think the Eagles
Did we all
kind of
pick?
just...
No, you picked the Packers. You and I picked the Eagles.
We had the Eagles. I'm
Eagles
not
just did their thing.
Totally shocked, but the Packers didn't. I mean, they fumbled the opening kickoff.
Yeah, they did.
They weren't ready
Once
to
that
play.
happens,
I mean, it was just, you could tell.
more than likely
Actually,
you're not going to win the game.
really, the Packers defense though, the
They didn't play terrible.
Packers turned the ball over 3 times and only gave up 7 points.
Yeah, that's
so
not bad.
I don't know what happened with their head coach and Jordan Love. I mean, I don't know. They just didn't look. It wasn't their best effort. They kind of just got.
It's said last week. Love was still banged up from the week prior.
Yeah.
Watson was out, and then literally throughout the game, they got more injuries. Doubs got hurt.
Yeah.
So they're down to their third,
nightmare.
fourth option as the number one option, and you simply can't win a game like that. What's the running back's name on the
Josh
Packers?
Jacobs.
Jacobs, that's your guy. He did what he could. He actually had a decent game.
Yeah.
But something I said last week, you could put damn near any quarterback on the Eagles, and I think they'll be basically the same. They have a great O-line. They have great receivers. The receiver, the dude was reading a book on the sideline.
A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown was reading a book on the side. He didn't even have to show up. He's busier reading the book than playing
the Packers. They kind of just gave that.
They gave up.
They kind of just laid down and died.
Yeah. So that's really all we have to say about that. I like the Eagles.
The only thing, I mean, the most memorable thing about that game.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
there was a brutal. If you guys saw the video, there's like an Eagles fan just being brutal.
God.
This Packers woman. It's
I
like
see that. And
he was
did say they
he
do
lost his
snowballs.
job.
Yeah, he got fired. He had like a
snowballs at
Santa Claus. Yeah, but
They're
this guy was
animals.
like,
He was calling her the C word.
He was just
calling
like,
her a B word.
yeah.
Called her her face. And dude, the girl's
just
boyfriend
watching
was
the
just
game.
letting him say it.
It's like,
it was
I'm
really
not even
bad.
rooting for my
It was a
team,
bad
but
look
they're
for
not
the
even
Eagles.
here.
but what do you expect? It's Philly.
Yeah,
women.
I'm not surprised. And sometimes
They're
people
animals out
say,
there,
I mean,
so-
they're not at work. Let them do what they want. But I feel like that when it comes to like that, there's like a certain.
It
point,
shows
You know what
character.
I mean?
You can't.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of live sporting
Especially
events.
to like some chick who's like trying to watch a game.
I would never talk to anybody that way.
No.
If they didn't
None
say
of the
anything to me, I never would. And I've had, dude, I was at the Rose Bowl last year, Alabama, Michigan. I mean, the Alabama fans. I don't want to be mean to them. It was kind of an interesting mix because you had LA people that were LA people, but they were Alabama alum. They were looking at the real Alabama fans as like, what was that?
Yeah.
So these fan bases, every fan base, they always have their, the bad fans are the worst.
I'm sure they're
But Philly
drinking
takes
alcohol.
Yeah.
Philly takes it to a level.
Let me say this. I've been to a lot of
I
Raider
understand
games.
that.
A lot of
Yeah.
Raider games. And you hear it all. You hear chirping. You hear people going back and forth. And usually it's like grown men, young adults, like maybe going back and forth at it. This guy was just doing it to like an innocent girl trying to watch a game because she's wearing a Packers. You're like, that. Come on.
It wasn't
dude.
good. It
How
wasn't
low
good.
can you know
It
what I
was
mean?
bad. I also, that guy looked like he was with some of his buddies. Why didn't they? I mean, it's kind of embarrassing.
They might have been egging him on too.
No,
Yeah.
they just sat there. It's
They
like
just-
I would have been like, dude, just let
Chill
it.
out,
Like,
yeah.
sit back. We'll buy you a beer.
I mean,
or
like I
something.
said, he
Chill out.
lost his job. He did. I mean,
It wasn't even an intense game. Like the
No,
game, it
dude,
wasn't
the
like
game
it was.
is over.
You could kind of tell like it was. The game was over.
Yeah.
It wasn't that type of ball game to be.
no, going
talking
back
to
and
a
forth.
woman
And it's
like
not
that.
like she was saying anything to
No,
him
she was
either,
just
but-
cheering on the dumb Packers.
Do I know the full story? No, I'm just going based off what I've seen. But
Side note: the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was the Lions Packers in Lambeau this year. There was a Lions fan who had a cheese grater hat on his head.
That's pretty dope.
oh, I saw
like
that.
that.
the
Unbelievable.
Philly
I like
cheese.
that.
I mean, that was he had
Yeah.
a cheese grater hat in Lambeau beating the Packers because the Packers always wear the dumb cheese
Oh, that's
on their head.
funny.
He had
Fucking
a cheese
cheeseheads.
grater. Like we're gonna.
I
grate
saw
the
I
cheese.
saw I saw a Philly fan wearing a Philly cheese, but a cheese head.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
So anyway, there's not much else.
That was not a great
talk
game.
about that.
Yeah.
The Eagles took care of business, and then next game, Bucks and Commanders, the highlight of the weekend, easily.
Great game.
Yeah, best game NFL game. Well,
think
yeah,
so,
best
too.
game of the. I agree. Best
I
game
agree.
of the
Best
first
NFL
round.
game, yeah.
Easily. I don't even think it's debatable because every other game was a blowout.
Bucks did their thing.
Literally every game was a
But
blowout, except that
Commanders
game.
just did enough. They snuck in that last second.
So that game, I took notes the whole time live, and some crazy stats. You probably don't even know this, John. The Commanders go for it on fourth down a lot, as we probably know that. But they lead not only the league, but all time. They convert on fourth down 87% of the time when they do decide to go for it. And they won for it on fourth down, I think, about 4 times this game. And
They got burned a
they
couple
failed
times.
twice.
Yeah, they got burned a couple
So
times.
that's almost a win for the Commanders, right?
Yep.
Or sorry, that's a win for the Bucks. You know, if I just said they convert 87% fourth down conversions, and they held them to 50%. But the biggest play of the game, there's 2 really. The Bucks fumbled, and then they got the snap fumble.
Yeah, well, the before it was 20-17. The Buccaneers have the ball driving. It's 3rd and 1. There was some type of I don't know if it looked like the center probably forgot the snap count. It looked rushed. They got into the back. All the timing was off. They got tackled for a loss. So instead, I'm thinking they're going to pick it up. They're going to score a touchdown. They're going to take the lead. That doesn't happen. It's like a 4-yard loss. They end up kicking a field goal. It's tied. So now all of a sudden, you give the ball back to Jane Daniels. There's no. I mean, I should say there's no pressure on him. But basically, it's go score and win, or you don't. Yeah. We're going to overtime. That's a great spot to be in.
A win-win situation. Yeah, so either you win the game or you go overtime, and then it's.
And he's proven all year if he has the ball late,
he's going to make.
He's delivered. I mean, he's tough at the end of the game.
Hail Mary.
He might be the most exciting player.
I said that in the first one.
Is he rookie of the year? Awesome. Or is it Brock Bowers?
You got to go with Jaden Daniels. He's quarterback.
Yeah, but Bowers,
he's broken all types of records.
Bowers is unbelievable. I actually want to get Bowers. I hate the fucking Raiders.
I mean, Bowers with the quarterbacks he's had to produce that way is amazing. But if you impact,
even Devontae Adams couldn't catch the ball with the damn quarterbacks. But Bowers catches every single one. It is pretty amazing. But something I wanted to highlight: De'Ami Brown went crazy the first drive of the third quarter. I felt like he changed the momentum for the Commanders. De'Ami Brown, you guys probably don't even know who he is. I didn't know who he was either. He just went nuclear the first drive of the third quarter, and they ended up scoring a touchdown. He scored the touchdown, actually. Something else I want to highlight, Mike Evans killed Lattimore. Mike Evans
took care
of business.
He's one of the best receivers in the league.
He's fast, he's strong, and I'm not crazy about Mike Evans, but he took care of business that game. And Baker,
he's a borderline Hall of Famer.
I don't think he's debatable. I think he is.
Probably, yeah.
I think it's
I don't like receivers, so I'm always hard on him.
He has to be, dude. How many years in a row has he got over 1,000 yards? 13 now?
I think 13.
Yeah, it's
10 to 13 years.
It's damn near every
That's
year.
impressive.
He's so underrated.
He's a real
I never hear him on any top 5 receiver list. He has to be up there.
No, he's a real deal.
All right, but so that was that, and then
the Monday night game,
the Rams just obliterated them.
Yep, I was wrong. McVay took care of business. Shula put Sam Darnold in the box. It really wasn't even close. But I do want to say I thought the officiating was god awful in that game.
And I agree with you. I was doing something. I think I was working. I missed like the first little bit of the first quarter.
You were working, and then we had the basketball game. So you missed a lot of it.
But Stafford was getting sacked,
and he
did like a little pass. And it was great if you watch the Manning Belichick show. Basically, what it becomes,
they're going wild.
They're like screaming, and Belichick's like, "That's an incomplete pass."
Yeah,
and he's like, New York called in, and then and it did. Yeah. The ref called it a fumble.
He did.
Somebody called it in and changed that call, and
it would have been a 7-7 game because they scored that fumble.
Changes
the rule
at least
of
it should have been
the rules,
intentional grounding.
It's whatever it is they called it, but that looked like a fumble to me. I mean,
worst case scenario, intentional grounding. I don't
and they called nothing. It's just
they said incomplete pass. Throw a flag.
Yeah, but they said he was targeting Puka Nacua. The dude threw a yard in front of him. How's he targeting Puka Nacua 10 yards down the field?
I will say,
I thought it was a throw.
And if that's the case, why doesn't every quarterback just chuck the fucking ball to the floor every time they're getting sacked?
Nacua was right there. He threw it towards his feet.
I don't
agree.
It was impressive though, and I didn't expect this because I've watched a handful of Rams games. I watched them beat Seattle in Seattle, and I watched them lose to the Lions week 1 in overtime. I was impressed with the Rams defense.
Oh my God!
I don't like Sam Darnold. He didn't play well, but he was under pressure in that game.
A
lot of quarterbacks would have struggled in that spot.
He was rattled.
I don't think he's the guy. He's a ginger. You can never trust a ginger at quarterback.
Damn near.
So
I do like Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Andy Dalton.
I do like Andy Dalton.
The Red Rifle. He's a backup. And I think that's what Sam Darnold is. At the end of the day,
he's not.
Is he could start for you, but you're not winning the Super Bowl.
No.
But he wasn't supposed to be the starter of
this game either, or he wasn't supposed to be the starter for the Vikings either. I think
it was
a battle. It was going to be JJ.
I don't even think he was that great at SC, honestly, dude.
He won that Rose Bowl against Penn State.
And
guess who's coaching Penn State?
That was one of the best comebacks.
I heard it was pretty great.
Who was coaching Penn State? James Franklin lost another big game.
I liked Andy Dalton more at TCU than I like Sam Darnold at SC.
One other play I want to highlight from that game that was just god awful. It was a face mask, but the refs didn't call it. Stafford went to the refs and said, "Hey, that was a face mask." And then the refs talked, and then they threw the flag after the play was already over.
It's because of the fires, dude.
One thing, and I spoke with people from LA. They were a little upset that they didn't play the game in LA. Still.
Yeah,
it's kind of ironic if you know what's going on with the LA fires. it's a State Farm.
Some
It's
insurance,
it's
yeah.
sponsored State Farm Insurance. That probably will be one of the companies that denies all the claims when these people claim
Yeah,
for their.
100%.
It's kind of messed up.
Well, a lot of celebrities have already cursed out State Farm, dude.
Yeah,
because
so
of,
that was weird. And it was an odd game watching it on TV. Just watching Minnesota and the Rams, and you saw the crowd. It had an odd feel to it.
So
It
I
wasn't-
actually talked to one of my friends that's a huge Rams fan, and he goes to Arizona a lot, and he was just like, for some reason, there's a lot of Vikings fans
Well, it
in
was
Arizona.
52%
I said snowbirds.
Viking fans. Yeah,
Was it?
The snowbirds. So,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you're from the Midwest, people like in Minnesota, Wisconsin,
during the
Michigan,
winters.
Ohio, Illinois,
They
Indiana,
migrate down.
They'll go
In the
to, no, they have a
wintertime.
house in
Yeah,
Arizona.
yeah,
my
they'll
uncle had a
migrate
house in Arizona and
Yeah,
Michigan.
my
They
dad's
go back and
neighbor
forth.
does too, just so
It's
they
common,
can go
yeah.
down. Yeah,
Like when you go to Arizona, it's like the NFC North. You'll have a Packers guy who lives there, Bears, Lions, and Vikings. They're all in the same neighborhood.
The announcer
Arizona.
said that there's mainly Vikings fans at
Yeah.
that game, so it's like kind of did away with the home,
Which is
field
even more
for the
impressive for the Rams to just
Took
basically
care of business.
show up.
I
and
think they have the better quarterback, better
They did.
coach.
Oh, easily.
They're a better
Something-
team. I mean,
Yeah, better. Yeah,
Something we didn't highlight. The Vikings lost back-to-back games once this year. They played the Rams, they lost. They played the Lions, they lost.
I was going to say,
And last
There's
week
no-
they played the Lions, they lost, and then Monday they played the Rams and they fucking lost again. So they've only lost 4 games all year. They're to the same 2 teams,
Yeah.
2 times in a row. We
That's
didn't
true.
highlight that.
And
the
there's been
Rams are hot right now too.
there's been a trend with teams that play the Lions a
they
week
lose
before.
the following week.
You
They
told me
lose
that.
or they struggle, at
Yeah.
the bare minimum. To defend I would feel if I was a Vikings fan, you go 14-3, and you lose the
But for
Lions.
what?
It's
all-
it's tough.
It's kind of a generational curse. For them.
Yeah,
Every time
even-
they have a great year,
They choke.
they get,
but they don't
they
have
get
the quarterback.
bumped out.
Viking fans themselves told me, I don't know why we have hopes. We already know what's going to happen. And the first game, it's like,
And-
I don't trust the Vikings.
And
dude.
I don't
They
know why
never
it's a
do it.
debate topic. Is Sam Darnold going to get re-signed
No.
by the Vikings
They're not gonna
for
pay
a
him all that
max
money.
or paid even
They
20
can
million?
franchise tag him though for 1 year. So even if they don't know what, they can basically just say give him the
I actually
franchise tag
heard
to keep him.
rumors that
for
the
1 year.
Steelers are looking at Sam Darnold, and I'm telling, I am a Steelers
There's a lot of
fan.
teams, Giants.
If the Steelers sign Sam Darnold, I'm not a Steelers fan anymore. I'm done. I'm going to retire. Screw Mike Tomlin. Screw Sam Darnold. If that's the plan, I'm not doing it. I don't
heard
like.
something about them looking for a new coach, possibly. I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. But
The Steelers don't usually fire coach.
No, they've had, like, 3 coaches. in
something
the
that
last
Mike
however
Tomlin
many years.
lacks that every other coach has. He's not an offensive coordinator. He was never offensive coordinator. He was never a defensive coordinator or quarterback coach. He
Well,
was never that. He's supposed to be a locker room guy, but he's never been able to handle some of these players. Look at the knucklehead we have, George Pickens.
Yeah, he's struggling.
I think
Well,
he
he
has.
might be
Well, I don't
out.
know what's going on with
He
this.
might
I think
be
he has
out.
some of the best hands in the league. His catching ability really is second to
Yeah, I
none.
love
But
Pickens.
it's his fucking mentality. He is losing his mind every game on the field. He'll suplex a player rather than catch a 15-yard
There's something
pass.
with the being a receiver in Pittsburgh, though. Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
he-
he went
I don't know when these
nuts.
guys lose their
But-
mind in Pittsburgh. It's
Juju
weird.
least- and-
Smith. And
yeah,
all
they don't-
that.
they don't
I
end
I
well
don't
for
know.
those guys
But with
there.
Brown, for example, he had work ethic. He worked on his game. He was phenomenal. I feel like it was after he left Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pickens is not the same player that Brown
No,
was.
he does not have the work ethic. He has the natural talent, but he does not have the work ethic. And Pickens probably is going to get cut. I don't see
Yeah,
him
I think
staying
he's
around.
done. He's gonna be.
Too.
The-
But Tomlin's supposed to be the locker room guy, holds these people accountable, the leadership.
Well, he calls them out.
It didn't really work too well. But why do we hold Pickens
They
accountable
don't-
only when we lose?
They don't
Again, though,
respond
the
well to
Steelers
it.
they got quarterback issues. I mean, if
Yeah.
your choice is
I
old
think
Russell
Wilson was better than Aaron Rodgers. I think. I'm not saying that's a lot.
actually.
You might not. That's not a bad.
I'm
take,
not
actually.
I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. He had better numbers than Patrick Mahomes this year. Or like they're
Yeah.
like look at their numbers, they're almost identical.
don't
I didn't
think
know that
Rodgers
until
had
I looked
a
at
good
it.
year.
What's that?
I don't think Rodgers had that great of a year.
No,
No,
he
but
had-
his
he had a horrible
numbers-
year.
His numbers
we're
were
also
for a
young.
40-year-old man. He wasn't that
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, yeah.
And the Jets. I mean, the
Jets
Jets.
are just a Jets.
They-
dude. There needs no.
I'm making
explanation.
fun of some of these other teams. The Jets they're in hell. I mean, it's the worst organization I've
Speaking
ever
of
seen.
which, I heard Sala is interviewing for the Cowboys coaching spot, and guy, is
I
that
think
going to be a match
Dion's
made in
gonna get
heaven?
it.
Is that going to be a match made in heaven? The fucking Sala on the Cowboys is going to be.
Dion, dude.
Okay, now
All right,
so
now let's get into our picks for this week. What do we got going on? KC at home versus Houston. I mean, Houston had that big upset. Last time Houston played KC in the playoffs, they were up 24-0 with about 9 minutes in the second quarter and ended up losing like 54-38 or something like that.
yeah,
And it made no sense. Me personally, I'm going to take the Chiefs at home. I mean, I think it's going to be a lock. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the playoffs
Are you
together.
going to lay the 8, or are you just picking
I'm
the
going to
winner?
lay the 8. I think the Chiefs are going to take care of business at home. I mean, they've been well rested the past couple of weeks, which can be a bad thing. But when you're a professional and you've been there and done that before, you've already been proven. You already know what's coming. So I think the Houston's in for a rough day.
I agree. I don't know if I'm going to lay the 8. That's pretty steep, but I'm a fan of the teaser bets. But I do think the Chiefs take care of business. I think they have the defense the Chargers don't. I think Stroud is going to make mistakes, and Mahomes doesn't throw the ball long. It's either a check down or a handoff. They're going to control the time of possession. Andy Reid is a winner.
Genius, yeah.
I think we all agree we're not fans of the Chiefs. We don't like them, right?
But
I don't hate the Chiefs. I don't hate them.
They're my most hated sports
you are
team,
neutral.
probably.
I'm not going to say they're my most hated team.
I can't hate a team because they win.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean,
I don't like the Kermit the Frog.
Liked
I don't like Mahomes. He reminds me of Kermit the Frog. I'm not a fan of him, but he is great. And I think the Chiefs take care of business. I have the Chiefs winning. If I had to pick, I'll take the 8. I'll take the 8 as well. What about you, John?
I don't like the game at all. I feel like the number's too high. The Chiefs haven't really blown anybody out all year.
No, they have not. They haven't scored over 30 once this year.
I do think they kind of turn it up at the playoffs.
100%.
Hashtag buckets at Lifetime. But I think I don't know if I can bet -8 on the Chiefs. I honestly, I'm probably only going to bet the game because we have a show. I guess I'll take the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Not super confident about it. I don't have a lot of confidence.
Screw the points. Who you picking money?
The Chiefs are going to win the game.
Okay,
yeah, the Chiefs are going to win. I mean, I would be if the Chiefs lost, it would be shocking.
It would be shocking.
It would be shocking.
Everyone would be shocked.
But would it shock me if they won by 2? No.
No, it wouldn't shock me either.
If it was a 20-19 win and Mahomes, pulled one out
Something
of his ass and they kick a field goal, it wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
either.
they played. That's the way they played all year. So
exactly.
I bet
They're
I
kinda
actually
got
really
that-
like in this game. I really like the under. It's 41.5, which is low scoring, but like I just said, the Chiefs haven't scored over 30 once this season. And the Texans are also a grounded out type of team. They don't have the receiving core that they did
at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Granted, Collins is great. Mixon is great.
Collins.
We highlight that.
Collins.
We highlighted that last week. But Chiefs have a great defense, and the Chiefs don't throw it long. Rashee Rice is out.
Well, the Chiefs have offensive line issues, so it's kind of.
I just like Andy
They're
Reid,
young,
dude.
but they're
Andy
still
Reid's
a top 3 line.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah, but Mahomes has been running for his life. He doesn't have time.
He's always been a scrambler quarterback, but he likes to check down regardless. I don't think he needs a lot of time for checkdowns. That's not their problem.
But if you're hitting checkdowns, you're most likely you're not going to score.
They still got Kelsey too at the end of the day.
He's
whatever
his last leg too. But yeah, so we all
I
have
didn't even like
Chiefs.
that game. To me, it just the Chiefs are going to win.
The Chiefs are
Yeah,
going to win.
we all
Do
have
they
Chiefs.
I'll
cover?
probably
I
wake
don't-
up and bet. I'll probably lay the 8, but I won't feel great about it.
No.
Yeah. Next
Shout
game.
out Zach Collins.
There you go.
Just kidding.
He was also from Vegas.
Yeah.
Next game, Commanders and Lions. John, start us off since this is your team.
And I don't like to get too arrogant with the Lions because I've been there. I've watched one of my first games I ever watched. Barry Sanders in the '90s. I followed him all the way till now. I just think the Lions are gonna. I think they're gonna destroy him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that to me that could make it a game is Daniels. He is a mobile quarterback. He can throw the ball. He's scary. So when I say destroy him, he's the one. The one guy that could possibly make it a game. But I don't like the Commanders' run defense. Rookie quarterbacks traditionally do well. They have done well in the first round, but when you get a little bit deeper into the playoffs,
Yeah. It's hard.
I don't think a rookie quarterback's ever won the Super Bowl.
different.
No
Game
shot.
playing's different.
I don't think a rookie quarterback's ever won the Super Bowl. So I love Jaden Daniels, but I don't think he's won the Super Bowl this year. I think his run ends in Detroit. The Lions are just on that. They're just got that. It's just a different vibe down there, and the Commanders are kind of tailor made for him. I mean, they're good. Monty's coming back. We're getting Montgomery back.
Yeah, he's coming back. Yep.
We're
Sonic
getting,
and Knuckles.
The
Sonic and
defense.
Knuckles.
These guys got to rest. Obviously,
No, it's huge they got to rest because they were banged up.
They were banged up.
We've
No,
all
that's
acknowledged
big.
that.
obviously,
They're banged
in
up.
any football game, when I say just the Lions are going to destroy, Goff will come out and throw 4 picks. which he has
But
those type of moments.
We've also seen them still win when he's thrown the
They
ball
have, but
picks.
if he is going to turn the ball over, they could lose.
Correct.
Yeah, any game.
Any turn. Looking at it before all that, though, I think you got to go with the Lions.
Yep.
That's my pick. I'll lay the points, whatever it is.
The points are 9.5, which is a little bit steep for a playoff game. I'll just jump into my pick since I'm talking already. I'll take the Lions too. I don't think it's even debatable. The Commanders, like you just said, they don't have a rush defense.
It could be a high-scoring game. The Lions' defense is beat up. They don't have Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have Reader. There's a count. I mean, the list is insane.
They have other guys.
They got Anzalone back.
Yeah.
And I noticed him. I don't think he's that great of a player, but when he came back against Minnesota, the Lions held Minnesota to 9 points.
Yeah, it was insane, dude.
That's impressive. I mean, so now Sam Darnold is not Jaden Daniels.
No, Jaden Daniels I think is better, but
by a mile.
I don't even think it's debatable if we're comparing.
But
those.
the Vikings, I think, like if you put Jaden Daniels on the Vikings,
that's a championship team. Even speaking
of
a rookie not winning a Super Bowl,
he might actually win
this might be an
You
exception.
give him Jefferson.
Yeah.
Addison
is one of the best route runners.
The running back's not bad.
Day,
I mean,
yeah,
the Vikings
Jones.
are they literally just need a quarterback.
I like their coach
to the
too.
Vikings.
I like O'Connell.
If I was talking to the
Yeah,
Vikings
he just won
fan
with his
and the franchise, the Vikings said this in the who did the Vikings draft?
McCarthy.
Your boy.
So they wanted a quarterback. So they were expecting him to be the guy.
Yeah.
He blew his
Well, it was
knee
a
out.
good year for him to develop too and
Yeah.
learn. He's
So
still,
that-
what is he, 21, 22 now?
He was a junior when he came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's
So
like
that tells
22.
you what they think about Sam Darnold before
Of
the season
course.
started.
They're already expecting to move on, and they don't
speaking
want
of
to pay him that money because they drafted the first-round guy.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to take the Lions as well. I think
Sorry to interrupt you, but Bobby Wagner's got an injury too. He's a
limited
linebacker.
Thursday's practice.
Old Seattle Seahawks.
And we just said their
He's
defense
needed.
He's a
already
Super Bowl
isn't great.
MVP, isn't he?
I think he
He
did,
is.
yeah, for Pete
Yeah.
Carroll. So yeah, in the Lions, if they can run the ball, I mean,
Goff is the best
Quarterback
play.
in the country this year.
I wouldn't say all that. No, he's the best play action quarterback. They have the
he's a
best
great
run.
play action quarterback.
They have a great line. I do think Gibbs is the better running back between the two. I know Montgomery and him are two different types.
I'm not comparing
But-
different styles.
Like
Yes.
Sonic and Knuckles, literally. That's what. Yeah.
Every
Speed.
team has
The thing I
two
like about
versions, but
Gibbs-
if Gibbs was a run, like the number one option, we saw it when Montgomery's out. He's getting 130
He's not good at
rushing
short
yards.
yardage.
You know who I
He's
like
so
to
bad,
compare
though.
them to, or who,
But he's
who
not
they
like
kind,
mine.
who they
It's not
kind of
great.
remind me of? They remind me of SC, Lendell White, and
It is
Reggie
a version
Bush.
of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very similar.
It's like I love that duo, dude.
What about Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards?
No,
Those are
Reggie
your
Bush
guys.
and Lendell White, I think is. I mean,
But
both are
anyway,
good,
So
but-
the first two
Both
games
of them
are
together,
kind of locks.
though. And it's the NFL. To say it's a lock, I think you're being
Naive.
arrogant.
Yeah.
Nothing's a lock in the NFL.
no,
True.
nothing is.
I
but-
mean, we just saw in the Viking game, the refs were god awful. The Rams still took care of business, but the refs could dictate.
But the
game.
line told you that was a pick'em type game, though.
Yeah, it was 2.5.
Yeah.
And looking at
The
them,
Rams opened, I think, at a 1-point favorite. Then when the game moved to Arizona,
it
then
changed.
The Vikings
It
became-
moved
but
back a point.
regardless, any game that's 2 or this game is at 9.5.
Flip a fucking coin. But yeah, 9.5. We had the Lions. We had the Chiefs.
Lions
so
are going to take care of business for sure.
So the last game on the slate, you got the Ravens versus the Bills, which I think is the best game of the 4.
I agree. I think that's a primetime game everyone's waiting for. It's going to be in Buffalo, obviously. It's going to be snowing about
Ravens
12,
are -1.
12 to 15 degrees. Ravens are -1. I
Mhm.
mean, everyone's saying
Basically a pick.
I think it's a two MVPs battling
Yeah.
it out.
it's a great game.
Best game. We guys all agree it's the best game.
It's
Yeah, it
definitely
should
by
be.
far the best game. I think
and
winner of this, in my opinion, winner of this is going to the bowl.
if you hope the Chiefs lose, whoever wins this game they're probably your only hope of beating the Chiefs.
Of course, I totally agree.
So
And I think either team can beat the Chiefs. I mean, the Bills have proven it in the regular season, in previous years. But going into this game, I think I'm going to take the Bills because it's going to be snowing. They're at home. Josh Allen, I think, is the MVP this season. Their offense has been amazing. So is the Ravens. The only concern I have for the Bills, or not really concern, but thing I would give the Ravens the edge is obviously they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and I think Derrick Henry is going to be a huge difference maker this year. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant to pick the Bills, but I think the Bills have been bad for so long. They haven't been to the Super Bowl in forever. I think they've been right there every single year. I think this year they're going to get past the Ravens and then head back to Kansas City for another rematch.
Yeah.
Who'd you pick?
I'm
Bills.
going Buffalo.
You go Buffalo, so you're
Home
okay.
field advantage. Going to be snowing.
So
Josh Allen MVP year. I'm going to go Bills. Sure. Like I said, I
Plus
just
one?
like Josh
Okay.
Allen.
What is the
I
line?
think, +1.
Plus
I'm
one.
going the money line at that.
I mean,
I mean,
it's
with
a-
1 point
yeah,
at that point, I might as
it's
well
all
take
the
the
same
money
at that
line.
point.
If they lose by 1, then they should have just won the game.
So for me, I am siding with the Bills. I agree with what you said. Essentially, what it came down to me was, if it's a one possession game or even a tie game, if Josh Allen has the ball in his hands versus Jackson with the ball in his hands, who do I trust? I
Yep.
trust Allen
That's
over
another great
Jackson.
point. Great point.
I feel like they both have great run games. Granted, Derrick Henry probably has the edge, but we can't look at Cooks like he's some bum. He led the lead in rushing touchdowns. He got a touchdown, I think, every game.
Yeah.
Cooks is legit. They got Amari Cooper from the Browns halfway through the season. Granted, he's not like receiver one. He's not what he was, but he's still a good receiver. I like Kincaid.
I love Kincaid.
Oh, also the Ravens did play. They beat the Bills 35-10
in Baltimore, right?
In Baltimore.
Yeah.
They beat the Bills 35-10. So that might dictate something. Granted, that was in the beginning of the season. They only played 4 games at that time. So there's that. Excuse me. But to jump to it, yes, I have the Bills. I'll take the money line since they're the underdogs. You'll get plus money on that line. John?
I like the Ravens big in this game.
Yeah.
Ravens?
I don't like McDermott.
Yeah, I was going to say the coaching I like better.
Harbaugh.
I like Harbaugh better too.
John, and it's not just because I like John, but John's had some. You talk about some brutal losses. He's had some bad losses in his day, but he has won a Super Bowl. You're talking about a guy who's won a Super Bowl as a head coach versus McDermott, who's never really got it done. And McDermott's always had Josh Allen. Josh Allen this year, I've been very critical of Josh Allen over his career. I always feel like he throws a lot of picks in the end zone. He hasn't done that this year, though.
No.
For the most part. He's been really good.
He doesn't have Diggs in his ear anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever the issue
or
is.
Screwing everybody's wives. Diggs is rumored to be doing that.
He doesn't throw, he hasn't been throwing picks in the end zone. The Bills, though, have a little bit of Minnesota Vikings in them for whatever the reason. I mean, they're the only team ever to make the Super Bowl 4 years in a row, and they lost every time. Think about how insane that is.
Yeah.
You make the Super Bowl 4 consecutive years in a row, and you lose every time. Granted, that has nothing to do with this game. It's all two different players.
But it is history, and history matters.
I just like the Ravens' talent. I like John, the coach. If Jackson's going to win it, I think this is the year, or at least make a legitimate run, go to the Super Bowl. I think this is the year.
That's fair.
And I'm a Derrick Henry guy.
Yeah, I love Derrick Henry.
I just think he's a real workhorse. You get him into the spot, they're not going to. The Ravens are the one team. They're not going to be affected by the weather going to Buffalo.
No.
I mean,
it's
in
cold
Baltimore.
either way.
They are used to the cold there.
I think they'll be okay.
I do think the Buffalo cold is a little different, though.
I agree.
Yeah.
And again, would I be shocked if the Bills won? No, it's a 1 point spread. But gun to my head, I'm going to take the Ravens.
Yeah.
And
okay,
that's my pick.
Last game, which we actually skipped one, the Rams and Eagles.
Rams and Eagles.
The line is Eagles -6, and points are 44.
I'm gonna go Rams 6.5. I think their defense is hot. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game. I love Stafford. I trust him. I love McVay. I think he's a great coach. I think Philly's stacked, obviously, but I just think you got to ride the hot team. Granted, both teams are playing well, but I think the Rams are one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team right now. I'm going to go with the Rams.
I think we're going to see McVay overcoach and lose this game, even though they are hot right now. I know I said that last week as well, but I'm going to take the Eagles. 6 might be a little bit steep. Eagles don't cover too often, but I do think they take care of business. And if I had to pick, yes, I'll take Eagles -6.
I don't love this game. I'll probably bet it small. I don't love the game. It's not like of all the games, I wouldn't put a lot on this one. I probably would go. I'm probably going to take the points with the Rams 6.5, just because it's so many points. I will say this though, having knowing Stafford for so long, he's a dome quarterback. he played in a dome in Detroit.
Mhm.
He plays in a dome in LA. Going to Philly's not easy. So if they look like Green Bay, I wouldn't be
They
totally
might throw
shocked.
snowballs at him.
Although I do think McVay's won the Super Bowl. He's got, he's like John Harbaugh a little bit. He's won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he is a winner.
The Packers coach has never won a Super Bowl. Love's never won a Super Bowl. Stafford's won a Super Bowl. So you got a Super Bowl coach, head coach, and quarterback on the road. I'm going to take the points. I actually don't know who's going to win the game. If I had to pick a winner, I'm going to go with the Rams. But I don't love that. I could see it falling apart too.
Out of the three games, that one's the hardest one.
I don't love that.
Something we
That's
didn't
definitely
say.
my small bet of the
Something we didn't say about the recap. Hurts did look hurt out there.
That's
He
another
looked
thing.
rusty.
He had about a month off. He looked very rusty. He's not the greatest thrower.
It's
as
crazy.
is.
He started off 6 for 6. I was like, damn, maybe Hurts is the actual quarterback. Then he missed the next 7 throws.
And that's the thing too. Why I like Philly. Why I like the Rams. Philly didn't look. They're offensively. They didn't look great against the Packers.
No, but they still got Saquon.
They do,
but they have the line.
Huge.
The Rams defense.
The
Rams defense isn't going to get to Hurts like they did to Sam Darnold.
I think that's the game right there.
Well, he'll be able to escape it better.
I think it's the
100%.
Rams
He'll
D
be able
line
to
versus
Hurts is
Eagles
mobile. He's bigger.
But Hurts throws picks. You get pressure on him, he'll turn the ball over.
Yeah.
He ain't throwing it. He ain't throwing it like Sam Darnold. Like Sam Darnold fumbles, throws an interception. I know they're two totally different quarterbacks, but
But
they're
Hurts
playing
will
the
turn
same
the ball
team.
over when you get pressure on him.
He can, but not to the level of Sam Darnold.
The reason
And
why
I
they
feel
lost
like
the Super
Rams,
Bowl against the Chiefs 3 years
because
ago,
he fumbled the ball.
the ball. The guy picked it up and ran in for the end zone.
Yeah.
They lost the game by 3 or 4.
Yeah,
that was the game right there.
And he played a great game actually in that game. I think he scored 3 or 4 touchdowns, but he did have the one fumble 6 that was the game.
But something they didn't have in prior years.
Saquon.
They didn't have Barkley.
Yeah.
They didn't have Barkley. They didn't have the receiving core they have now. But even though the line's 6, I do think this should be a pick'em game. I think the line should be 2.5.
It seems like a high line.
Yeah,
to me.
that does to me too.
The Rams are hot right now. Like, if they do win, I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
And especially with the points, I actually did already bet this game. I have it in my slot. I have it on a teaser. I bought it up. I got Rams plus 13.
Yeah.
And that's a great line, especially when you parlay it with 2-3 picks.
There is a reason though why the line is that. So these the bookmakers, the odds makers, they know better than we do.
Of course.
So it is 6.5 for a reason. But for whatever the reason, I just think I'm going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams will have enough to win the game.
It's going to be in the trenches, dude. D-line,
Yeah.
Rams D-line versus the O-line for
Yeah.
the Eagles.
Yeah, so to recap, Rams, and I'm the Eagles on this one. And that concludes our football picks. And to just jump right into it, we want to bring up the NBA, and we want to cover why we believe the NBA is in a decline or why we don't believe it's in a decline.
A decline from a viewership standpoint.
Viewership.
Exactly.
Personally, I think it's in a decline because of the amount of subscriptions you got to get now, the primetime games. There ain't no flex schedule like there is in the NFL. If the game's a blowout, they keep the game on because they're paying these ESPN announcers, the TNT announcers, to do that game. But if it's a blowout, turn to another game, right? Another thing, the injuries. I think we can all agree on the injuries, right?
Yeah.
They called it load managing in previous years, and now as long as the NBA team says, "Oh, they're sore," they're allowed to miss the games.
Yeah, I think that's
I'll let
ridiculous.
you guys jump in.
I agree. I think it's ridiculous. I think load management or the injuries, however you want to call it, is a big part of why the NBA is declining. I think that's one, in my opinion, many reasons. I do think the TV deals are ridiculous, and I do think one of the main issues that they have with the TV deals is the Rockets are the second team in the West, and they don't show any Rocket games. The Magic are making noise. You never hear about the Magic. They
Magic
only
are the 5th seed right now. Speak on them. They are the 5th seed, and they've been injured all year.
Yeah.
Paulo just came back.
I love
Francis
the
missed the
Magic.
last month and a half too, and they have kept up with the rest of the teams.
They're playing great, and that's what I mean. Along with the TV deals, it's the NBA marketing. They don't market these teams. They pick 4 major city populated teams. They got the Clippers, the Suns, the Lakers, and Golden State in the West,
Yes.
and that's pretty much it. Then you go to the East, you got the Knicks, Celtics. What do you
Philly.
got? The Bucks, Philly. Those are your four
Boston.
teams,
And they're still
that's
talking,
pretty much
and
it.
they're still talking about the Heat, and the Heat are the 10th seed. Jimmy Butler is
It's-
vetoing playing basketball because he's lost the love of the game, even though he's
Yeah.
getting paid $50 million.
It's ridiculous, and I think that's another huge problem that they have. They don't highlight these new young talents, these European players. Other younger guys are mid-market or lower-market teams, which are now improving. This isn't 2010 anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you turn on ESPN and you just listen to the talking heads talk about the NBA, it's Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler. They don't talk about like an up and coming team or just an exciting team, fun team to watch like the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies are awesome.
The Grizzlies are 3rd seed in the West. The Pistons are going to make the playoffs
Yeah,
again.
the Pistons are good.
The Cavs. I mean, they're the
Cavs
one
are
seed.
great.
What are they?
seed.
33-5.
Yeah.
They lost tonight 6, but
I
yes,
mean, I
they're
saw
great.
like
What are they,
a
one or two?
screenshot where they were
One
like
seed.
they're
Yeah.
on pace with like the 96 Bulls.
And you never hear
The
about
last
them.
war. They don't even really talk about it.
No.
Whereas like the NFL does it, regardless of where you play in the NFL, if it's a Bills Lions Super Bowl or a Bills Chiefs or a Lions Chiefs Super Bowl,
It's
it's
going to
still
sell out
gonna be a big
regardless.
game. Yeah, it doesn't.
100%.
If Green Bay makes a Super Bowl, it's huge. It doesn't really matter the market.
Tampa
Yeah,
Bay.
there's some. If you could get, if
Like
you could
the
get,
Cowboys are the number one.
yeah, if you could get a Cowboys,
most expensive
Rams,
team.
LA, Dallas, that would be good for
huge.
ratings. But it really doesn't matter. I think the
No.
NBA kind of needs to follow that lead a little bit and try to prop some of the teams up there.
rather than the players, right?
And let me say this to defend the league. Morant, it's tough to run him out there. He's videotaping himself with a gun in a strip club. How do you make him the face of the league?
Or beating a kid, a teenager.
He kinda
and
did that-
They said it was self-defense.
he kind of
Yeah.
did that
The
to
kid was 14.
himself. I
He
mean,
did.
I can't. That's not the league's fault for that.
Yeah. But
No.
to jump on what you're saying, yeah.
But the
league has
Grizzlies,
to
I will
highlight-
say
I
this
don't
about
think
Morant.
that doesn't hurt the viewership, though.
Morant is one of the most. I mean, who's more exciting to watch the NBA than
He
Morant?
just
right
dunked
now?
on Wemby
Yeah,
last
but
night.
it
It's
counted.
literally
That was
the
insane.
best dunk of all time that's never counted.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Even Chris Paul was on the sideline like, damn, I've never seen this. I'm 40 years old.
Yeah.
So,
It was
and
pretty
they
great.
don't really even talk about that team.
No.
Or another the
Or
Thunder.
marketing.
The Thunder are amazing.
I
to
wanted
watch.
to jump on the Thunder.
Great fun
So-
team to watch.
So we just had the NBA Cup here in Vegas last month, and even ESPN, TNT, all these analysis were talking about these are the marquee matchups we wanted. What do you mean it's not the marquee matchup? We got the 1 seed out west, the Thunder, playing against Giannis and the Bucks. Granted, the Bucks aren't what they were, but still Giannis versus Giannis and
Giannis
Dame
is NBA
Lillard.
champion. He's Finals MVP.
And
He's one of the
granted,
greatest
the
players in
game
the world.
the game ended up being
It's
a blow-
Milwaukee, though.
Yeah, the game
Yeah.
ended up being a blowout, right? But those are two marquee teams, and they're talking about these aren't the matchups we wanted because LeBron wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Back to the marketing. The Thunder were huge with KD and Westbrook. As soon as they left, people kind of just forgot about them. Then now they're back. You could say arguably better than ever, and you don't really hear much about it. They
Some
don't
of
have the same hype behind them.
Now
They're a nice
Shea
young team
does
that plays
get
well.
Shea does get that publicity. They're saying he's number one in MVP votes. It's either him or Jokic right now, essentially.
And that they were 1 and 2 last year.
Yeah.
And I
And
can't
so-
disagree with it.
They highlight Shea, but they're not highlighting the Thunder. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why
they play
doesn't the
great
NBA
team
highlight
ball.
these teams?
Like Jamal Williams.
Why don't we talk
Is
about
Jalen Williams or Jamal Williams?
Jalen?
Jalen Williams.
And
He's
there's
awesome.
actually there's two Jalen.
There's two Jay Williams.
J Dub. He's
But they don't
starter,
even. There's the Thunder are such
He's
a fun
like
team.
22, 23
There's so
years
many-
old, and he's a borderline all-star on a borderline championship
They
team.
shouldn't. It shouldn't just be about one player.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Like, what happened to the days of, even when the Celtics and Lakers played, they don't make a big deal about the Lakers for Celtics anymore. I'm not saying it's what it was, because it's not. It's not what it was. They don't care about the dynasties
But-
in the 60s and the 80s like they used to. There's NBA players nowadays
Everyone's
that
friends now.
don't even care, or don't even know, I should say, about the past. We had some guy talking, I think it was Jalen Green, actually. They asked him, who's your favorite dunker of all time? And he's saying, like, he didn't mention Dominique Wilkins as one of the best dunkers. He didn't even mention Jordan. It just, and dunking has nothing to do with how good of a basketball player you are, but I'm just saying these young players, they don't appreciate the old generation. And I'm not surprised the old generation doesn't give the respect to the young guys anymore.
No,
We
they
just
don't.
had Charles Barkley shit on JJ Redick and the state of the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's something I appreciate about Barkley. He does keep it real to a certain extent. He's not right about everything, but he's not afraid to give his opinion.
Well,
I
and
agree.
one getting on that, if you listen to the Shannon Sharp Charles Barkley interview, I don't know if the NBA has the vets, as Barkley would call them. Like, so when Barkley was drafted by the Sixers in '84, which is arguably the greatest draft of all time. Elijah Wan, Michael Jordan, Barkley, it was a great draft. On that team he came on to, he had Moses Malone and Dr. J, and
Mo Cheeks, veterans.
Barkley went to Moses and was like, "Why am I not playing?" And he's like, "Well, you're too fat, Charles. So I'm going to help." And he didn't just say I'm fat, like make fun of him, like they might do now.
He was just straight up about it.
No, but he said, let's lose 10 pounds every month or every week or whatever. And he just worked out with them.
He did.
Barkley was 300, then he got him down to 290, then he got him down to 280. Do guys in the NBA do that kind of stuff?
Well, speaking
now?
of being a fat ass, let's look at Zion. Is anybody on the Pelicans trying to work with Zion?
But
there's no veterans.
Does he have a vet with him to kind of help him?
The oldest guy on the team is CJ McCollum, and they all blame him for the reason the NBA contracts are so lopsided. You either get paid a max or you get paid a minimum. They killed the middle class in the NBA.
Same thing with off the court, though. Same example with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley bought like 3 or 4 cars when he was on the Sixers. Dr. J said,
"Chill.
You're one dude. How many cars can you drive at the same time?" And he's like, 1. So why do you need 4 cars? They're still going to know you if you roll up in a Kia.
A lot of these people don't know money. So, you teach them the language of money, that type of language, but you need the vets.
It's big to have veterans.
Woody Hayes always talked about this. You always have to pay forward. You can't pay backwards.
Exactly.
It's past. Pay forward. Does the NBA have guys in place that are doing that for these guys now? I don't know. Who is a vet? I don't think it's a total coincidence that Jimmy Butler's having an issue when Adonis Haslam retires and he's no longer on the roster. If Adonis Haslam was on that team, him and Jimmy might get into a fist fight. Who's checking Jimmy now?
Times.
Yeah.
Nobody's checking Jimmy.
I mean, Hero's worried about what outfit he's going to wear.
Hero doesn't care, I don't think that. I think that's another problem. A lot of these young guys just don't care,
There's only a handful of teams that have vets. Like, look at the Spurs turnaround. I know they're just under positive right now. I think they're 19 and 20 on the year. But look at the development of Wemby from last year to this year. Granted, there's no minute restriction, but it's not coincidence that you add a 39 floor general that's been around for 20 years, Chris Paul.
Great move by the Spurs.
What?
Great move by the Spurs.
Amazing.
Chris Paul, and now Wemby's got it. He's an old, diminished point guard, but he's still a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
Top 10 point guard of
all
all
time.
time.
What we saw last year, like they were running Sochan, even though Sochan actually is a decent player, he's not a fucking point guard. They were trying to run him as a point forward. How many times did we see Wemby last year wide open underneath the basket? His 7'7" frame, and Sochan can't pass the ball. Chris Paul is feeding Wemby. Wemby's PRAs, for example, is 45.5. That's the same line as Giannis.
And see, the Spurs, now I do feel like Wemby does get he does have the cachet of the NBA. The NBA is kind of grooming him to be that next guy.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's another problem I think the NBA has. A lot of the best players in the NBA are foreign-born players. Does that affect the way Americans, do they not want to watch it? Because, Wemby's from France, Giannis is from Greece, Jokic is from Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
It probably does have an impact.
It has an impact. What I think the problem is, the NBA is.
Who's the best American player right now? SGA?
No,
he's Canadian.
He's from Canada.
There you go.
The best one probably is Tatum. Paulo's from America.
Curry.
And LeBron's obviously still up there. We got.
Yeah, I'm not talking. Amazing. Obviously, like LeBron and Curry are all time. I'm saying like up and coming young.
Up and coming.
Zion. I mean,
Paulo's
they show him
the best one.
What I see with Zion, it's a
guy badass that doesn't care.
It's a guy that's working at Wendy's. He's taking a selfie with Zion. He's ordering Wendy's.
He likes porn stars.
He's getting fast food.
Porn stars, dude.
So with Zion, and that's kind of where the NBA screwed up. They highlighted 2 of the wrong players for the up and coming guys. They highlighted John Morant. He had the gun fiasco, and then all that.
I think
he really highlighted Zion.
Who on that Grizzlies team though is a vet? Who is the vet?
Smart's on the team. Marcus Smart. He
just came though.
Yeah, but he helped.
He hasn't been there since the beginning. Though.
Correct, but now he's there. Jaw's not doing no dumb shit on the court.
So there you go.
Smart is checking him. I do think that Jaw should have been highlighted, though. I think the youth likes him. Everyone likes him. He's an exciting player to watch. I think they did a good job. I think Jaw just messed that up himself.
That's the thing. You can't
because he's a great player.
These guys, they're their own people. Nobody told John Morant to pull a gun out and go live on Instagram or whatever he did.
He also didn't have to be the face either. Or to be pushed to be the face, but I mean, who doesn't want that? You know what I mean?
Well, some players don't. Some people can't handle it. Like Tatum, for example. Like they're highlighting him. They're doing this, and I remember they asked Missoula, "Is it fair the criticism Tatum is getting?" And Missoula's like, "It's a privilege to get this. You want to be the face of the league. It comes with shit."
Yeah, it does.
And that's something I appreciate about Missoula. He calls that out. Like, hey, if you want this, there's gonna be criteria you have to meet. So if Ja wants to be the face of the league, he has to hold himself accountable.
Layer,
It's
the-
multi-layered.
the
There's
NBA,
not
though,
just one thing to fix the NBA.
no,
There's a lot of things.
But the Celtics, you can't. A guy going to Boston, the Celtics are a different organization than the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, it's
Like
not
the
a big
standard is
difference.
just you can't go to Boston and act a fool.
Like,
No.
It's just the way that I mean the race problems they have in the city historically, it just doesn't work that way. So you can't totally compare that.
I just use that as example because
Boston is a great franchise. There's a lot of
I use that example because Joe Mazzulla is right though. If you want to be the face, if you want to be the best player, and
There's a
NBA
sacrifice.
highlights you, you gotta
yeah,
sacrifice.
100%.
You gotta do the commercials. Like we even see Jokic in commercials now, and honestly,
Yeah.
they're
But the
amazing.
Grizzlies are a bad organization historically.
Historically, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
they're also not an old franchise.
If-
They've only been around.
I always
for,
say
yeah,
this: if
30
Kobe,
years.
if Kobe, he was drafted by the Hornets.
Mhm.
If he had gone there, would we? And he just stayed there. He wasn't traded on draft night. He just
What
stayed
would
in
have
Charlotte. Not that he would have been a disaster in Charlotte, but
He
Is-
might not have been as big.
is he the
as
Kobe
is
that
now.
that we all that we recognize with him going to Lakers? He's
With
Along
his
with
case,
being
Shaq.
drafted by Jerry West. So who does Jerry West? We'll sign Shaq. So you have Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage. A lot of players don't get that advantage.
but
I think
also
he still
with,
would have
with his
been
case,
big, though.
he has
Of
the
course,
work ethic.
Yeah.
Kobe's one of the greatest players of all time.
He has a work ethic.
It helped being
he has
drafted
different
as a
one.
Laker,
Yes,
though.
it 100% does. You have the organization behind you. You have the history. You have the bets.
There's even that's an extreme. Like if you're a basketball player, and even if you hate Boston or you hate Paul Pierce is from
LA.
LA, grew up hating the Celtics, but when you get drafted by Boston,
You become
you're
Boston.
you're
Yeah.
in basketball
You're right
royalty.
about
One-off situations. There's lesser teams like a San Antonio or a Detroit or a Houston where they've won titles. Like if I was a player, I'd rather go to a San Antonio or a Detroit rather than like a Memphis. I know Toronto won one recently, but they haven't won
No.
one. The Hawks historically, what have the Hawks ever won?
The Hawks haven't won.
I mean, there's some
Have
franchises
they
in the
ever
NBA.
Yeah, they won when they were in St. Louis in the 50s.
But
I
I'm
don't
talking
think
as
they-
Atlanta Hawk, they don't have any titles. They don't even win playoff games really. There's certain franchises in the NBA. If you get drafted and go to that franchise,
You're set up.
it's tough. Like a guy like Jokic winning in Denver, that's impressive. Denver never
That
won a
is.
title before
That's
him.
He's
huge.
never won.
So
But
to
also
go there
going
and
to
win one,
something
it's almost
is a
like
big
winning
deal.
two in some ways. Like LeBron winning a title in Cleveland is almost like winning 3 titles.
It is.
Because
In so
Cleveland
many
is a
ways.
loser-ass city, and they've never won anything in their lives.
Exactly.
And speaking of them, like you said, they are the 1 seed. Let's highlight the Cavaliers. They are great, but the biggest turnaround, the reason for the biggest turnaround
And
is
say
their
you're
coach,
bagging on Cleveland right now. Hey, and I don't like
They
the
play
Cleveland
good
owner.
ball,
I
too.
can't stand them.
Dan Gilbert. Yeah.
They've rebuilt. They have a
Properly,
team.
yeah.
I mean, they,
Oh, no,
right
their
now,
team
they
is
made the
great,
right trades.
but,
They drafted right.
they can win the whole thing.
Their team is honestly the same from last year. The biggest change is their coach. They got Kenny Atkinson, and we got to highlight him. He's changed the whole dynamic of their offense. JB Bickerstaff, he's on your Pistons, and he's changed your Pistons as well. He's a floor raiser, but he does not raise your ceiling. I just want to put that out there. Kenny Atkinson's changed the whole offense of the Cavaliers. They had Darius Garland looking like a bench player
I
point
like
guard.
Darius Garland.
They got Evan Mobley really looking like the top 5 pick he
Cleveland's
should be.
drafted well, and
Yeah,
then
they-
But Evan Mobley
I know
was
what you
a
mean.
stud. I love Mobley. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. And Garland's looking like a borderline all-star. I do only think they get 2 all-stars this year. I think it's Mitchell and Mobley. But Jared Allen's playing great too. And they have wiggle room. Mobley and Allen don't have to play together. If they really want to buy in on a wing now, they could trade Allen to the Pelicans and get Ingram or, a package
Another
Trey
piece,
Murphy.
Yeah.
For example, just putting that out there. I think Trey Murphy's untouchable at this moment, but just saying that. But rewind back to the decline of the NBA.
and not that when you say decline, I don't
Decline of viewership.
Yeah, the like when I don't watch a lot of NBA games. I don't have the time, and I don't see the value of just spending time and sitting there watching a whole 2-hour basketball, 2 to 3 hour basketball game. When I do sit down and watch a game, though, even if it's like I love the Kings as an example because they can't win a close game to save their life. They got their coach fired, but when you look at their talent, they're a fun team to watch.
They are a fun
I
team.
mean, Fox. When I see him, I'm like, this guy's amazing. Monk make plays. Sabonis.
like
I mean, you
Monk,
watch him
Sabonis.
play, you're like, this. Nobody even talks about the Kings. Now, granted, they don't deserve it because they're not winning. But the talent in the NBA, I do think the average player in the NBA is
It's
the
better
best it's
than what
ever
it was. Correct. I agree.
been. The NBA's always had this issue. If you guys are, I'm not that much older than you, but I've read and luckily my dad has taught me a lot about the history of just sports in general and basketball. in the late 70s, early 80s, when Magic and Bird, before they took off, the NBA used to be
In the 70s, it was bad.
well, no, it was. I mean, it wasn't bad. The players were great, but the games were on tape delay. NBA Finals games,
On tape delay.
NBA Finals, not regular season. We're talking about an NBA Finals game. So imagine an NBA Finals game, not on live TV. They show it. The game's already been played. You already know who the winner is if you read the newspaper. You're just watching the game live.
That's crazy.
Think about how insane that is. So what happened was you had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Now there was a race dynamic, obviously that helped it. White versus black. People got into that, but they were also the two of the greatest players of all time. So you're watching greatness versus greatness. Now magically,
with both historic franchises. At the
exactly.
Same time.
So it was the perfect storm. The NBA, it's a little unlucky they haven't really had that yet. You need that player that moves the needle. Magic and Bird, I mean, those guys were all time.
They brought the NBA back from the 70s just to highlight that.
like
a 3-point shot was a gimmick they just added to try to get viewership up.
You kind of saw this with women's basketball. I mean, women's basketball,
it's been dead forever.
But Caitlin Clark comes along,
and then
now everybody, Juju Watkins on USC. I know players in college basketball that I don't even. I watch. Not that I watch more women's college basketball, but the fact that I know names tells you it's more compelling.
It is.
So
Caitlin Clark blew that up, dude.
So,
I have to say.
And there's a whole slew of WNBA
and
players.
We're in
I
Vegas.
go to Aces games.
Yeah,
now.
we're in Vegas, and the Aces are back-to-back champions, and
they were giving away free tickets, and people would still turn them down.
Even though I did like Asia Wilson, I like the Aces, and
as soon as Caitlin Clark comes around,
the first year I didn't even know we had a women's team.
When you watch a WNBA game, I don't have to worry. If Caitlin Clark can run and play, if Angel Reese can play, she's going to play. She's not going to sit load management. I understand it's a shorter season.
Yeah.
But they give it everything they had. Magic Johnson in the 70s, he won the national championship at Michigan State, and then he goes in and wins, as a rookie, wins the
NBA championship.
Finals MVP and wins the championship.
Without their best player, which was
Kareem.
He plays center.
Like, you have to have talent mixed with the storyline.
Yeah, 100%.
And some of that's luck.
And personality.
Magic
was the biggest
when
personality.
Magic smiles, I mean, he just lights up a room. There's nobody like Magic Johnson. And then you have Larry Bird. You mix that together. So the NBA, that's not their fault.
It was the yin and yang
for not getting that. You can't just get that.
It has to be organic.
But hopefully, and I hope, I don't want to see the NBA do bad. I hope something like that can happen. So it becomes more popular. I mean, I used to watch NBA games. I used to watch NBA. I used to watch every regular season game. To now, I only watch the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the playoffs are great. I mean, you can get a great playoff.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch, but I'm not going to sit down and watch.
So I want to piggyback a little bit off what you just said. Like, I used to be a diehard NBA fan. It was like one of my favorite sports to watch in high school. Like, I would watch it every day with my brother. We would watch every single game. I think pretty much how you pointed, there was Magic and Bird. They kind of did that. Then Michael Jordan completely took it to the next level. Then they had that big physicality that they had. People loved it, getting blown up. Then you had LeBron. LeBron's been kind of carrying the NBA for 20 years. And Curry comes along. They have that rival. Now I don't think they have anybody. I don't know if it's because of marketing or how you said these young guys now, the game has changed. I personally went from loving watching the NBA to all of a sudden now, like how you said, I don't even watch a game until it's playoff time. Like,
I think you watched your first few games last night, and you're like, this shit is brutal.
Yeah, I watched my first couple games in a while yesterday, and I said, I don't know, this is, I can't watch this. People aren't playing defense. No one's really trying. Every other possession, people are just chucking up threes.
And it's tough. I mean, you got an 82-game schedule.
That's something I want to bring up.
There's
too many games.
So, John, you said it's tough for you to watch a 2-3 hour NBA game, but why is it not tough for you to watch a 2-3 hour NFL game?
Because the NFL gives maximum effort.
Wins and losses mean more.
And the NFL.
So you're saying the players try more, and you're saying the wins and losses mean more.
Wins and losses mean more.
Let me just say, as a guy that plays basketball, obviously never even close to playing like at a major Division I level or in the NBA. I'm not comparing myself to them, but as a guy who plays in just we play in leagues around town. I play in 2 leagues, Sports Complex, Lifetime. I separated my shoulder last week. Guy on my team, Ed, blows his face out. We're playing in games. Okay, basketball games.
Yeah,
you got guys in the NBA that
making millions who don't play.
Like Paul George, he's more worried about his podcast. Draymond's worried about his podcast.
He literally just released an episode. Is making a podcast harder than playing in the NBA? That was the title of his podcast.
It's not. So it's ridiculous.
look at us. We
It's
made
ridiculous.
a podcast and we can never play in the NBA.
So that has and that's gonna. If I'm a guy, if I'm just Joe Schmo, why am I? And the NBA is not cheap to go to a game. Why am I going to go and spend $60
and
to
you don't know if your favorite player's
$150
going to play.
just to
Not
watch
even
it
that.
anyway?
Even if he's just even going to show up to play hard, some people just kind of go through the motions. Like I was watching the game, people are like walking and jogging up and down the court,
Like,
just throwing random stuff.
We make fun
up.
of these college games, and I make fun of Jack Sawyer. Michigan planted a flag, and he cried. He planted a flag on my stadium. I mean, it's like Jack, calm down, dude. It's not that serious. But I'll give Jack Sawyer credit. He wants to win that game, and he's paid. He's paid at Ohio State, but is he as paid as like an NBA player? I mean, it's not the same.
No.
And they're playing a sport. You play football, you get hit the wrong way, you may not be able to walk. Your life can change. Basketball is not that dangerous, and these guys, I don't see the
Killer
emphasis
instinct
on it.
as before. Yeah.
So, since
And not everybody in the NBA, because we went through a litmus of players and teams that the NBA doesn't really personify.
yeah, it's
or
not
talk
everything.
about.
It's just as a whole, we're saying.
Yeah.
And
as
it's
a whole.
So is
What-
one of
what's-
the
It's frustrating
Like
because when I watch
Bridges.
John Morant play, when he goes to the basket, he goes
He
to the
goes
basket
hard.
with reckless abandonment. I mean,
with
he could
authority.
get hurt. He's gonna try to dunk on somebody. He's trying to make something. He might get blocked and embarrassed. He's
But
going
he's
for it.
going. Yeah.
So is
I respect
is
that.
the answer to maybe cut down on the games? I know the
Yes.
NBA owners don't want this. So
But
there's
see, I
the
don't
owners
agree with
and then
that.
there's the NBA
So you're
Players
telling me with
Association.
John Stockton, fucking Bill Laimbeer, the dude missed 5 games in like 10 years.
So I'm not saying
John
for the
Stockton
injuries
didn't miss any
about.
game. Michael Jordan never missed a game.
Bridges hasn't missed 555 games.
I
in a row
think he
or
might
You're
have
telling me
missed
there's
already,
guys
but
that
I
played
think
in
he
areas
missed
where they
with
got
Nets.
killed and they didn't miss games.
I think they need to
So why do they
work
need to
it into
shorten it?
contracts. I think they need to.
Well,
work
I did
in
not watch
incentives.
teams
So
when they
one
went
of
at it like
his
that.
reasons for falling off of the NBA was the wins and losses matter more in the NFL, right?
Of course, no, you
So-
can't compare that.
so-
That's an advantage NFL
Yeah, I
has.
know. So if we cut down on the amount of games, again, we're just saying we live in a perfect world where the owners will agree to that. They won't because they want more money, right?
Of course.
But let's say we cut down to a 66 game schedule. I think it's 66, right? Or
It's
64.
never going to happen though.
Perfect world.
The owners aren't. You're not going to.
No,
you're
she's
saying 82 to 66.
theoretically.
But
That's
then,
16 games
but
of
then
revenue
could
share.
they add more incentive-based contracts like the NFL does? Oh, if you make this amount of threes this NBA season, you get X amount of money.
Well, there's no
if
doubt.
you
Yeah.
play the
Yeah.
minimum
If
of
you-
40 games of the 66-game season, you get this amount of money.
I mean, if you made
So-
the NBA contracts like an NFL contract, for sure you're going to
People
have.
are going to play.
People
more.
are gonna play,
They're gonna
yeah.
play
Or
harder.
they're gonna
play
try-
harder. Too,
They're going to give everything they can to potentially play.
which I think they
Okay.
should.
So, I mean, that could be one of the answers, right?
This
Yeah.
also isn't the NBA's fault. The basketball, AAU basketball, college basketball, the sport, it's not just the NBA's fault. They get a finished product of a guy that went through this whole entire system of playing high school basketball, AAU
They
basketball,
take a game.
and college basketball. It's not the same. Like Mick Cronin, and I don't agree with everything Mick Cronin's saying. He's kind of putting the spotlight on himself, and I feel like he's taking a little bit of it's a bit of a cop-out. Everybody that's on that staff, he hired the coaches, and he recruited all the players. So to sit there and throw them all under the bus, it's like, well, Mick, you picked these guys.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of your fault too. But he's not totally wrong in what he's saying. He's looked like as a pariah. Whereas, like, if you look at 1980s basketball, I just looked at a thing on Facebook.
That's normal.
We looked at 1980s basketball. You had Jim Calhoun. You had Louis Carnesecca. You had Rick Pitino. You had John Thompson at Georgetown. You had P.J. Carlissimo at Seton Hall. And there's guys I'm
Was
forgetting.
that before or
This was the
after
80s, Big East
he
basketball.
got hit by Spreewell? So
Before. Seton Hall.
Okay.
He lost to Michigan in 1989 in the national championship. It was in Seattle, the Kingdome in Seattle. Michigan beat Seton Hall. PJ was the coach of that team. But when I look at the Big East in the 80s, I'm like, well, that guy's one of the. They're like
Big
all
East
the
was
greatest.
insane, dude.
Like they're all like greatest coaches ever. You think those guys were nice to all of their players and
No.
coddled them? I mean, and obviously
Tough love,
times have
dude.
changed, but
NBA players' dads are getting
these guys
shit for
playing
coaching
now
their players
didn't
as
go
kids.
through that. They didn't go through that league.
I think it's softer now.
Rolly
dude.
Massimino at Villanova. I don't know if you guys know him.
No, I don't.
He beat Georgetown in the national championship. It's the greatest upset of all time. I mean, that's just one conference. Now those guys were. I mean, they were animals how they treated players.
Yeah.
So it's
soft now, dude.
It's changed.
It's
Yeah.
soft.
And it's affecting the league, and the public's not responding to it.
No, people love to see violence, dude. They love KG's one of the most fan favorite players.
He is
Bill
actually
Laimbeer,
my favorite player
Rick
of all time. I love
Mahorn,
him.
Rondo, like these guys who are like in your face. No, like no one like everyone's friends in the NBA
And-
now.
and
There's
the
nothing.
And the thing about those guys back then and the players, it's not even the skill level. I do think like
It's
the
the
average
effort.
guy is better now, like the average player.
100%.
1 through 15,
But
it is better.
The way you felt about it, you felt like you were watching something that was all time.
Life and death.
Yeah.
Like on the floor.
Like gladiator shit.
You hear KG talk about the Celtics, like, who am I going to war with? Like, they're acting like NBA games, the war.
Yeah.
I mean,
And now, you're
I
lucky
believe it's
if
the
you see, like, a real game in the NBA in the regular
the
season.
1984 Final Four. It was Villanova, Georgetown, and St. John's.
Big East teams.
I don't know who the fourth team was. They didn't have a chance because they were going against Murderers Row. But Georgetown's got Patrick Ewing. Villanova didn't really have like a superstar, and they won the whole
They
thing.
just had a good team.
And then you have
I mean, we see that in
St.
now.
John's. St.
We
John's
see
had
that
Rick
now.
Mullen,
Okay.
and Patrick Ewing was either a junior or senior, and Mullen was a junior or senior. So you have like literally guys that would walk into the NBA and like be stars of their teams. They're playing in college basketball
3-4 years,
in
yeah.
the Final Four. I mean,
Yeah.
think about how insane of a talented Final Four that is.
Yeah.
Now, you just don't have.
No,
you
if
don't
you're
have
an
it.
NBA player,
And I
you
get
played 1 year
The
in
money
college,
wasn't
maybe
the
2
same.
years.
The money wasn't the same. So these guys want to get paid. I get it. It's a different era. You can't totally compare it. But
Once you develop players, it's a lot different.
if you had, if we had a situation, if where we were watching teams like that with guys that were going to be 1 through 5 picks all in the Final Four, how exciting
would that be?
that Final Four would be. You'd be like, this is an all-time event.
100%.
Magic and Bird, they played each other in the national championship game. Then the next year they go in. It set the stage for the NBA. So it's a cycle. It all starts from the beginning.
These
It goes through.
high picks go to colleges where they can be the star. BJ Edgecombe is projected to be a
NBA
top 10
draft's
pick,
all
and he went
potential
to
now.
Baylor. And Baylor is nothing this year. They're essentially letting BJ just do whatever he wants. So yeah, that's totally different than what it is. But I guess to bring it all together, the NBA has a lot to work on. I'm still an NBA fan.
I'm an NBA
through.
fan too. I love.
I watch
basketball.
as many games as I can. It is funny that that's the only sport we all play.
Exactly.
And that's why I
basketball.
wanted to bring up to you, like, why did you stop watching basketball completely when that's the only sport you play? And you gave a great argument. It's because they don't care as much. The wins losses don't matter, so there's no
The
incentive.
effort's not there the way they play.
Can I
A
wrap
lot
it
of
up
people.
here?
A lot of
Yeah.
people don't play
Go
team
first and
ball
I'll wrap it
too.
up.
That's my main thing. A lot of people don't play team
No
ball.
doubt about it.
That's the main thing. I like playing the right way, setting screens, cutting, setting back doors. Now I feel like it's more of an individual. It turns into an individual game, but
I think the NBA's offense, I honestly think they figured it out. I think analytics helps figure out the offense. There is actually a lot of cutting in offense and screens. It's a pick and roll type of league or a 5-out system, which is pure spacing,
One thing,
which is a more beautiful, enjoyable game watching.
I personally like. I don't want to say completely stop watching basketball, but I love watching college basketball. That's what I mainly watch.
Because
if
the
I'm gonna
effort?
watch basketball. Because the effort, I feel like people care more. They're playing for something like bigger than themselves. And I just feel like the players are more passionate about it. Some of these guys are not going to go to the NBA and make millions of dollars and just sit
he's
down.
tied the game out with 4 seconds left.
Let's go, Zeds! But yeah, just all that tied together, I just feel like the heart is still there.
Yeah.
Whereas NBA, I do watch it in playoffs, obviously, but
It's not what it was.
it's just
in your
not what it
opinion.
was before.
And not to be negative with the NBA, for future shows, because we want to get, right now it's football season. As soon as this ends and the NBA picks up, we want to do shows on NBA playoff games. Because the NBA playoffs are amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the right players and matchups, you'll see things. I mean, a couple years ago, watching the Heat, Jimmy Butler versus the Celtics,
It was unbelievable.
I mean, those were great.
It was
Yeah.
so
I remember
enjoyable.
those games more than I don't even know who won the title that year. So there you go.
I think that was the year the Nuggets won.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I guess to conclude it all, the NBA has some stuff to work on, but
For sure.
we're still NBA fans. It's just some things that we see that they could work on. But we're the Club Rats. I'm Jesiah.
Fernando.
I'm John. Have a great night.
And that concludes episode 2. Enjoy, guys. Go Irish.